Hello, everyone.
Hello.
You're just looking for Radish's comment every time you're saying that now. Hi, guys. We're going to be doing questions and answers. We already have a bunch of Patreon questions, and I think we also have a few live chat questions. Let me actually highlight this one as well because there's somebody who's disappointed with one of our takes from the hijab girl video in India. So I'm starring that one as well. But because that one is not a Patreon question, we have to go through the Patreon questions first. Let me see. In the live chat, is there any other questions that we need to star? Call her brave. Oh, there's 3 of those. Okay, so let me just highlight all of them. Okay, cool. All right, so the way this works,
it relatively shorter today because I'm overwhelmed with preparing for the speech I'm giving on Saturday.
Okay.
So we can't go 3 hours like we did last week.
Okay, that was entirely your decision. Like you are.
I know. I'm just letting other people know if that's
okay.
what they're hoping for. I apologize. I got a lot on my plate.
We do spend a bit more time on the Patreon questions than the live chat questions. Okay, so if you want to become a patron and make sure you get priority in your questions, getting your questions answered, the link to our Patreon is in the description. Another advantage of being a patron, beyond the amazing blasphemous art that we send you, sexy blasphemous art that we send you, is that you can send your questions without even being live here. Some people don't get to be with us at this time when we go live, so as a patron, you get to pre-send your questions for us to answer. So that's another advantage of being a patron. By the way, guys, some of these patron questions are very long. Can you guys try to keep it a little bit shorter? That would be a lot better. Anyways,
we've been telling you. No,
yeah. All right. Okay. Cool.
I'm just gonna take it as a compliment that people want our opinions on all these complex topics.
Sure. Yeah, it's just like when we highlight them, I want to make sure all of it shows up. Like sometimes if the Patreon question is too long, then the people it's gonna cut off. Anyways, it's fine. Secular he knows that I'm saying secular Sekai is he knows what we're referring to him. It's okay. That's fine.
They be talking about me.
That's okay. All right.
Let's sing Jai Atheist Republic.
Ah, I like that. Atheist Republic. Okay, cool. I'm actually getting impressed with how Oxymoron is even though he or she disagrees with a lot of our point of views, very, very open to hearing what we have to say and still supportive of us, which it's very amazing. All right.
Not a lot of people are like that.
Not a lot of people are like that. Yeah.
And D is reminding us: did everyone like this stream?
Mm-hmm.
If you're here, did you like it? Please do. It's free. It helps our channel a lot.
Yes, make sure you like the stream. If you can't support us financially, that's completely fine. Please don't. If you're struggling, don't support us financially. Liking the video will be a huge support for the channel. Okay, so please make sure you like the video. Anyways, yep, that oxymoron is right here. Okay, cool. You're welcome. All right.
Asian American. I'm gonna just butcher this pronunciation. Wansui. I'm assuming this is the Mandarin version of Jai.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's get to the Patreon question.
Okay. So, first Patreon question is from Secular Sakai, asking me, Susanna, what are your thoughts on the Christian nationalist ex-Washington State Representative Matthew Shea, who stands accused of, can we say this word, terrorism?
Yeah, let's just say it.
Who stands accused of domestic terrorism and wrote a manifesto entitled The Biblical Basis for War, calling for a theocracy and the killing of all non-Christian males in times of crisis and or warfare. Thankfully, he's been removed from office, but was in office for 12 years and only fully ejected last year. How can America do a better job of keeping other extremists out of office? Okay, so truthfully, I haven't lived in Washington since I was 18. So a lot of when this stuff with Matthew Shea started to go crazy, I had already been out of the state for a long time. And so this was Guys, when I was looking into this today, I was like, holy crap, this is insane. Like on so many different levels. I can't really even like break down all of the details. But it's freaking crazy. Like I could just go into so much details. I think so if people aren't familiar, in Washington, there's a huge difference between those politically, between those who live in Western Washington, west of the Cascades, which is like Seattle, Bellevue, Medina, freaking Bellingham. Like it's very Redmond, Issaquah. It's all very tech focused. Versus Eastern Washington, east of the Cascades. It's a very different climate, both literally and politically. Much more rural, much more farmland, less diverse. And so I'm not surprised that this guy, spent a lot of his life in Eastern Washington. That's where he was a representative of in Spokane. I mean, frankly, Secular Sakai, what do you think I'm going to think of this? It's freaking insane. Everything about it is freaking insane.
How would somebody like that get elected? I don't understand. This is like Washington State. Like that doesn't seem like a place where somebody like this would get elected.
In Eastern Washington, it's not entirely surprising if you're familiar with the area. Now it's definitely like an extreme manifestation of that, right? In rural areas, like they hate the governor, they hate Jay Inslee. It's actually like they got some pretty funny cracks on him. But this was like a very extreme version of it. So there's a movement in Eastern Washington of people who want to secede from the greater state and create their own state because they feel like the majority of the population is in Western Washington, west of the Cascades, which is very politically left, very extremely liberal. And so since that's where the majority of the population is, they have much more political power than the rest of the state. And they feel like the state government is no longer representative of them because of this demographic skew. And so this guy actually tried to put forward motions to secede from the state and create their own like liberty state or something. And this also plays into another movement that happens all the way down the Cascades, where they want to either sever the West Coast and have Washington, Oregon, and California be its own country, which used to just be like kind of a cool thing because the West Coast, like best coast, we got the best culture, like we have so much going for us economically, so much culture. It's insane. Like I mean, I'm a West Coast baby. I freaking love it here. It unfortunately, that movement took on a Christian identity aspect to it, where it became like a very white supremacist secessionist movement. So this whole Cascadia thing, like this new country would be called Cascadia. It's like
how did it get
Christian identity thing?
How did they get rid of him?
So it was revealed that he was actually involved with surveilling political like enemies who were like Antifa or communists or just like people he didn't like, which is a huge abuse of power. He got the sheriff of Spokane, who himself is like a Republican, turned all this information over to the FBI. They got involved. He refused to resign, so I think he just got all of his positions revoked, and he was kicked out of the Republican caucus. But it's a huge problem. To get to your question of how can America do a better job of keeping other extremists out of office, this is a difficult question because he was definitely very extreme beforehand, but more of his extremity didn't come out until like later into his service in public office, or at least that's in my impression of this, because like I said, I wasn't actually that familiar with this because I haven't been in the area for a long time. So maybe it actually was well known, but he was obviously very far right to begin with. But how hardcore it was, like his manifesto, that didn't come out until like 2018. It's difficult. It reminds me of a conversation I had with my friend when she was like, they were upset about my change in kind of political thinking when I was leaving Antifa, and they were talking about how they think that public officials should basically like be monitored or have some sort of like approval process before they can even run for office. And I fundamentally was opposed to that because that's such a violation of First Amendment rights, like to monitor things you've said. Because they were talking about this example of some elected official where there was like on record of them saying the N-word sometime before they were elected to office. And of course, like I don't like that, but I think it's completely against our principles to monitor and to have an approval process for people who can be elected based on what they said or not before. So
I think yeah, go on.
I don't know how to fix this question. I mean, we just kind of have to really be thorough about well, I mean, also if the electorate does want this type of person to represent them,
I think like a lot of people are just looking for solutions. Like there are a lot of things that the government can do. Like I'm not like this whole no government kind of like anarchist is like, you know, like extreme libertarian that says like no solutions can come from the government. Okay, but there are certain things that you can't just like everybody when they're looking for solutions, they're not everybody. A lot of people are just like, okay, what can the government do for things to get better, right? Sometimes some of the answers, like I'm not like this like right-leaning person that thinks like all responsibility is on the people, right? No, the government has a lot of roles, but there are sometimes like we have to also ask like, well, you should vote, like people should vote better, and that requires more education. And well, somebody could like, well, more education is also a responsibility of the government. God damn it. All right, like, but at some no, but at some point, like we have to look at a bottom-up approach, right? And always a top-down. Like we can't look at fixes for all the sudden all everything can be just the government make it impossible for these people to come into office or restrict these people or like change it so that these people don't have a say or you know, you can't just like keep like you'll create a Frankenstein monster if you want to keep like making patches or like fixing things here and there. Like you just at some point there's some responsibility for the people to just vote better, and that requires better awareness and more education. And like, you know, the people are also responsible. It's not just the government that is at fault for things, right? So I think we can move on.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Harris is here. Yes.
Hi, Harris.
It's such it's so great to see Harris just popping up and just showing up in our life.
Right?
It's so nice. I love it.
And people are contesting my, you know, my West Coast supremacy. Am I a coastal elite? Yes. And I refuse to apologize for it. Okay. Next question is again from Secular Sakai, asking, it's always astonished me that many people don't seem to know that Russia had a civil/separatist war within our lifetimes after the fall of the Soviet Union back in the early 1990s until the 2000s. Could you please discuss the Chechen wars and the terrifying fact that Islamic jihadists successfully drove the Russian military out of Chechnya, declaring independence as the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria, I don't know, for just short of a decade?
Well, it's not full independence, is it?
Well, I'm not the right person to ask about this because
it's not like okay. No, I'm correct. It's not full on independent. It's not fully independent. It's still. It's more of an autonomous area, right? So. That entire area. Okay, first of all, we're not the best people to talk about this because we haven't been like looking into this to the same level as the analysis that we have on like Middle Eastern, you know, related issues, right? So we're not the best people to talk about this. But I remember growing up with this being on all over the news all the time, right? This is my childhood, 1990s to 2000s. These are my childhood. I remember like this being on the news, especially when the Chechens took over that. What was it? It was a theater, or was like they took the hostages. That was like a real like mess. Like I remember like people being obsessed with day-to-day coverage of what's happening hour coverage of what happened over there. So that was like, yeah, growing up, this is, by the way, like a lot of people like post like 9/11, most of their experience with like Islamic jihadists were like things related to Al Qaeda or Taliban or ISIS. But growing up for us, this is what we knew. This is what we associated with like Islamic terrorists, was like war between, you know, um, Chechens and Russians, right? And yeah, so this was like the main like our experience was that the main target of like these Islamic terrorists was Russia. And yeah, they got like, there was such a even though Russian military superiority, like it was really hard to completely. They're in a actually it's very similar to Taliban, because they're very, even though they're very inferior, like, okay, so just like a Taliban compared to the United States is like very much weaker. Afghanistan's geography and the caves and the like mountainous regions makes it very, very hard for even a superior military power to be able to completely control and defeat the Taliban. Like, you could defeat them in short battles, but overall war, you can't. It seems impossible to just get rid of them. And at some point, they just have to wait it out. Like, they just have to keep fighting with you until your resources are depleted and you just give up. Like, they just, because you could win, you keep winning battles against them, but because you cannot completely get rid of them, they just have to play the long game and just keep you there until you be like, okay, I give up, I'm out of here, right? So it was the same situations. I thought I don't have much to say about this. Apparently I do. It was kind of the same situations between the Chechens, Islamic Chechens and Russia, right? Russia was way more of a superior military power to them, but the mountainous regions that they were in, it was almost impossible. Like, you could keep like to completely defeat them, even though Russia was like extremely more aggressive against the Chechens. Like, they bombed the bejesus out of them, right? They kept on like every time like the Chechens made did jihadi stuff on Russia. Russians were like, okay, how do you like this? And they just like way more like they bombed them way more aggressively than like, like without any hesitation, for like without any mindfulness of collateral damage or civilians being killed. Like, the Russians were extreme. Like, they destroyed entire cities. Like, it was insane. Okay. And the Chechens were like defeated in many wars, but they weren't removed completely. And they just had to wait it out until the Russians were like, but they were a lot more committed. Like, I mean, they're jihadis, right? Like they're a lot more committed to sacrifice. They're a lot more willing to sacrifice things, right? And at some point, Russians were like, okay, we give up. So this is the similarities with the Taliban is the difficult geographic regions, for the mountainous regions, for both the United States and Russia to be able to make it difficult for you to deploy your military just without any barriers, like to get rid of a jihadi group, and also the ideological willingness for people to commit sacrifice, and the longer term, and the asymmetrical war that the Chechens were playing against Russia was similar to the asymmetrical mastery of the war that the Taliban was waging against the United States. And also both of them were playing the longer game. They're just waiting for the bigger enemy. It's kind of like a mosquito just like flying into the ear of like a giant bull. Like, the bull is a lot stronger, but I just have to like stress you out enough for you to keep like trying to attack me and just wear you out. And at some point the Russians were like, okay, we give up. Like, this is like, so for people who think the United States is weak because they couldn't get rid of the Taliban, no, they're not weak. It's just like, this is the nature of these multiple different factors, making it very difficult for even a superior power to defeat you. You saw this happen again, and the Russians had to eventually come to a negotiating table. And yes, they didn't become independent, like you're saying. Did you use the word independent? Yeah, declaring independence. That's not what happened. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, they can
Like,
declare independence, but they aren't
No.
actually independent. They're autonomous.
Yeah, and
So
right
just
now,
because you
actually,
declare it, that doesn't mean you actually
Yes.
succeeded in
What's the name of that crazy tyrant, weirdo, cat-loving guy that is in charge of Chechnya right now?
Ramdam.
What is this?
Ramdar.
I forgot his name.
Kasimov.
No.
I don't know. That sounds.
The anti-gay person.
Yeah.
That keeps putting people in detention camps.
I think I got it. Let me see.
Yeah, the weird looking. Yeah, that guy is like. That guy is like a Putin puppet, anyways. Like, how much independence can you have? Like, not like it originally started with being autonomous.
Ramzan Kadyrov.
Yeah,
I was
that guy.
Kind of close.
Okay, yeah, people are. Oh, Ridresh is coming. Yeah, that guy. That guy is like, yeah, that guy is just like now Putin's enforcement arm in Chechnya, right? So, like that level of autonomy that they had after all these wars is completely gone now. Anyways, that guy is in charge of, like, actually that they are now more, now that they have like their semi-autonomous control over the area, Putin is actually able to control more the Islamist rising from Chechnya compared to before. You know what I mean? Because they used to be like Russians against Chechens. Now they have this guy in charge, and he's like very committed to making sure like the jihadis are not rising out of Chechnya against Russians. So now you have the Chechens controlling Chechens to make sure there's no anti-Russian Islamic aggression against Russians. So this so-called autonomy is working a lot better for Russia than it did before. So I don't know. Does that make, what do you think, secular Sekai? Does that make sense what I'm saying? These are my, again, we're not experts at all. We don't have this. We haven't been involved in this region as much as we have in other places. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But let me know if you think like what I said, you know, if it's a good representation of what's happening.
Yeah, I think they're mostly just getting at the fact that so few people know about this, like including me. This happened when I was an infant, so I was literally, I like didn't know anything really.
Check out. Good analysis. Okay, cool. Yes. All right. Okay.
Oops, wrong one. So, you know, let's go back and forth between some patrons really quickly. So, Gasian American is asking, as China is officially an atheist state, would the non-superstitious ideologies of Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, and Xi Jinping thought, New Confucianism circa 1900s Common Era, not the Neo-Confucianism of circa 1900 Common Era, and the miscellaneous CCP economic policies be outside the Atheist Republic purview? Okay, if you mean, so you're just talking about kind of the amalgamation of many ideologies that kind of influence and give rise to kind of this diffuse and multifaceted attitude or ideology that we see rising out of China currently. I don't think that's outside the Atheist Republic.
What's the question? I
think they mean like outside of purview in terms of what we go after, what we criticize. I don't think it's outside of that at all. I think we just need learn a lot more and gain a lot more specific understanding to be able to give.
We're gonna eventually, like in the next couple of years, we're gonna move more heavily into this. Like China, this is very much, you know, part of our like. It's going to take a while for us to become more involved in it and more educated in it as well. And I'm hoping like maybe Asian American could like be involved in us moving more into that direction. But I mean, China is going to be a major part of the future's entire global politics, right? And they're heavily moving into, and it's a huge mix of a giant bag of contradictory ideologies that they're going to be using, not weaponizing as propaganda for China's branding in the entire world, right? And a lot of people, a lot of the atheist community is not even equipped to handle like these ideologies are not just going to be the branding of these ideologies, which is going to be separate from what actually the ideologies are, and the way they're going to be used as a way for China to spread its propaganda around the planet. Because this is not going to be China has like three different fronts when it comes to trying to exert its power around the globe, right? It's going to be military power, trading and economic power, and the third one is going to be ideological and cultural soft power, right? So it's definitely going to lean into using its soft power, and using its soft power involves using its history and its cultural past and its branding of things that Westerners, a lot of people celebrate as something exotic and Eastern, as a cover for, for promoting things that are CCP, pro CCP, right? So the communist brand is not something that you could just like come out in, like, I don't know, in the United States and North America or Western Europe or other places to come be like, oh, look at the superior way of the way. Like, I know that China is not communist anymore, but they still have the communist branding internally, but externally the communist branding doesn't work well for advertising. So Confucianism and Taoism, I think they're going to lean mostly into Confucianism. That is really going to something that they have shown to be leaning into. Like, even though Mao and initial communists were like very much against Confucianism, now the current situation is that they're leaning into it because they know that that's the branding that they could rely on for external soft power, right? So taking advantage of that is something that we need to guard against and we need to be aware of, but also not just because it's going to leave China, also for the sake of understanding what's happening in China internally. These ideologies are going to mix and match with each other. They're going to be contradicting each other. They're going to be fighting each other, or they're going to change each other. They're going to be working with each other. Sometimes they're going to mix with each other. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. And given that we're hoping that at some point the barriers between the Chinese people and the rest of the world, at some point the new Chinese wall is going to collapse, right? Just like the Berlin Wall is a collapse. We're hoping for the this hypothetical Chinese wall that exists between, because like I want the CCP's grip on Chinese people to fail at some point, and for that wall to be broken down at some point, because I don't want us to be creating two different civilizations where the mixing and matching is so little that at some point we can't even recognize each other, culturally and like communicate, like value wise and everything, right? So I know they're trying to, like, different nations try to raise their people in a bubble. I'm very familiar with that, given that I was raised, I grew up in Iran, and
You're like, tell me about it.
No, like I need, that needs to fail, right? That needs to fail, right? So it's not just because, so we're very much interested in China, not just because of what China's influence is going to be on the rest of the world going forward in the next couple of decades, but also because of what's happening in China itself, right? China, like a lot of people, when they talk about China, they're talking about as if the Chinese people are these others and it's us and them, right? But Chinese people, they're us, right? They're like, this is our fellow Earthlings, right? So I mean, they're 1 in 8 of us, right? So that's a huge chunk of us as the human race, okay? So we should really much care about what's happening to them, and also to see how we could tear down walls and build more bridges, right?
I agree. That's very optimistic.
Yeah. Also, like this, I don't like people saying I don't like China. Okay, I think, like, guys, we should like change our language to. I need to be more careful about this as well. Okay, we don't like the CCP. Okay, we very much like China. We very, very much like China. Okay, it's a huge part of our planet. Okay, this is our, like, we can, like, yeah, we care for the Chinese people.
Yeah, one of the most like incredible civilizations in the world. Like, we can't just dismiss it all because we really freaking hate their current government.
Oh my God, this. So yeah, I've seen this in the Persian side as well.
Interesting.
Wait, really the same? Okay, so He's saying Asian American thing. PRC is using the Tang, as I was saying, dynasty shelter of the Sassanid royal family as an early form of friendship. Oh, that's amazing, because I've actually seen that, because China and Iran, China and the CCP and the Islamic Republic of Iran are becoming closer and closer together. And I've seen the same propaganda from the Islamic Republic side as well, to show like they have history with each other, and Muslims and Chinese people got along. You know what I recommend if I was part of the propaganda arm of all of this? I don't know if that will work. We could also no, actually, I don't know if that will work. I was gonna say they were also both the victims of Mongolian invasions and stuff like that. We could I don't know. No, that's not gonna.
Oh my
That's not
God.
gonna work.
Well, they're trying to build upon the idea of civilizational alliance. Like, it's not so crazy that we're working together. It's been like this all along.
Okay, I have to highlight this. Sorry, I know we need to get to the next question, because the level of self-awareness here is very amazing. Just read what you're just saying, okay? So I don't know how to pronounce your name. Okay, so I'm gonna say CA. Listen to what you're saying. Saying, I don't like China in general. They are racist. Read that again, but slowly. Okay, just read what you just wrote and think about how what you're saying, there's a level of hypocrisy. I'm not going to point it out, the level of hypocrisy in this very short sentence, okay? But just look at it, just look at your own sentence and see why is this sentence self-contradictory, okay? Just think about it, okay? Just take all the time you need, all right? I hope you get it. Okay. So.
Take all the time you need.
All right.
This, who just bigs us up all the time is Secular Sakai, saying, Armin, you swing in every direction. I like it. You got moxie. Well, he doesn't swing in every direction. If there's one direction he does not swing in, he plays for one specific team. And that's it.
Okay. Wait, I don't get what you're saying, but okay.
You don't understand what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. I think by first swing in every direction, they're not talking about that. They're talking about political.
I know, but I am.
Okay, good. Okay. Sure. Yes. All right. Okay. Okay, cool. All right.
No one can take away from my bisexual monopoly on this show. Not in this economy. So next question is from Secular Sakai, asking, how common or rare is monolatry in modern forms of Hinduism?
So monolatry is if you worship one god alone, but you still believe other gods exist, right? Is that it?
I don't know. I thought it was like monism.
No, monolatry, I think, is when you believe it's kind of like early Judaism, where they didn't deny the existence of other gods. It's just there are other gods, but just only Yahweh is worth of.
I thought that was called Henism. Monohenism.
I can't spell this. I can't spell. So monolatry is the belief in the existence of many gods, but with the consistent worship of only one deity.
You freaking nailed it.
Monolatry. Okay. Yes. Okay. Oh, Qasim is saying I'm right. Yeah, and also Ridrish. Okay, so I don't know. Okay, so could she being a what is it called when you only worship Shivanite? What is it called? Vaishnavites and Shivanites? Shivanites? Is that what is that called?
I don't know
in
if that's
Hinduism.
The term that people commonly use. I mean, that's a very anglicized word, so I doubt people in India would use that word. But I know.
I don't care if it's anglicized. I'm not just
oh, you nailed
this
it.
This is a Shaivanism.
Or close enough.
Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. So Vaishnavite and Shaivanite. Okay, Shaivite. Shaivanite. Okay, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it.
It's tough.
Okay, so I think that's the closest thing to what you're referring to. Bring back the question. Okay, so if you're a Vaishnavite, okay, if you're a Vaishnavite in Hinduism, Okay, but by the way, I might be wrong about this. I'm just giving you my impressions, and I let the live chat tell me. We have a lot of people from India in the live chat, so they can tell me if I'm right about this. Okay, if you're a Vaishnavite, you're acknowledging the existence of other gods, like, but you're only worshiping. You're committed. You're submitting to. What is the word? Loyal to, devoted. You're devoted. You're a devotee of Vishnu if you're a Vaishnavite, or the other one, Shaivite. You're or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. You're a devotee of Shiva, even though you're acknowledging a bajillion other gods, existence of a bajillion other gods. Is that a number? But you're only like a Vaishnavite. You're is completely dedicated devotee, and to a worship of Vishnu. So I think that would be close to monolatry, right? So I don't know how common it is in India, because I know most Indians are completely happy to switch from the worship of one god to another, right? Like I don't think most Hindus in India have only worshipped one god. I think like I don't know if there's any Hindu. I think it would be very rare for you to find a Hindu, like even if they're a devotee of a certain god. Like let's say you're a Vaishnavite, right? So you're a devotee of Vishnu. So you're very committed to Vishnu. Your entire religion surrounds just being a devotee to Vishnu. I don't think it would be. I don't think that person would have never prayed to another god. Like I would think it would be very hard to find like, and I don't think that person would have a problem praying to another god, right? So for example, if I think about early Judaism, so who believed in Yahweh, but they didn't worship other gods. They condemned worshiping other gods. I'm not talking early Judaism. Early Judaism didn't even have a problem worshiping other gods, right? So I'm talking post exile, post Babylonian exile. Judaism had more of a monotheism or monolatry that worshiped Yahweh and condemned worshiping other gods, acknowledged the existence of other gods, but condemned worshiping it. You could even read in the Bible that the Bible doesn't like calls God a jealous God, right? So Yahweh is a jealous God who doesn't want you to worship other gods. Like even in the Bible that we have as canonized Bible in our hand today, you can see it kind of acknowledges the existence of other gods. It just say God is jealous; He doesn't want you to worship them. It doesn't say those gods don't exist, right? But I don't think in Hinduism, if you're a devotee of Vishnu, I don't think you would have any problem sending a prayer to Shiva or Kali or like any other gods. You know what I mean? I don't think that there would be any. I don't think you would see that as wrong. So I don't know if that's given that you have no problem worshiping other gods. I don't think that would be considered as monolatry. What do you think? What does the live chat say?
Tarakudo is saying, I visited a Hindu temple for both Vishnu and Shiva, but the tour guide said they avoid looking at the god they're not devoted to.
Wow.
I wonder if it's just for that occasion, though. Like, maybe when you're making devotions, you got to be very careful that it's not interpreted as going towards the other person. I don't know. Rajesh is saying Shivite can worship Vishnu, but the other way is forbidden. Interesting.
Wow. These are so cool.
And so Philip is saying, what about devoted to Brahma? That's very rare. There's only one temple devoted to Brahma.
There's only one temple. About it. Because he screwed with his own. He married his own daughter, right?
That's not why.
It is why. No, that was part of his punishment. He lost all his temples.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he lost all his temples because of, I don't know, was it who forced this upon him? Because Shiva didn't like. By the way, maybe Brahma is like a perv based on Hinduism standards. No, but not based on ours. People are like, oh, this is your Western blah 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 standards. Okay, no, Shiva. This is based on Hinduism own standard. Shiva cut off his head. Shiva cut off the head of Brahma. Like if you look at Brahma's picture, he has 4 heads. He used to have 5. Okay, and Shiva cut off his heads because he was being a perv. I don't understand how the marriage worked. Okay, so Brahma was attracted to his own daughter, and he wanted to, I can't, screw her. I'm saying screw because YouTube is sensitive with like the F word, right? And so that's why he has 5 heads. First of all, okay, he had 5 heads. So he was looking at her, and she tried to like escape his gaze. So he grew up a. Why can't he
It's the
turn his
creepiest
head?
thing I've ever heard.
It's like this should be turned into like a 5-minute scary clip. Okay, so like imagine like he's looking at you like, ugh, and then she just moves, and instead of turning his head to keep looking at her, another head grows on the side, and she's like so she keeps moving because she's creeped out by her own father, and she moves her back to the back. Then another head grows at the back, so he could keep watching her, and then she moves again, so another head grows to this side. So she's like so bothered by the fact that my father is creep growing up head, so he could watch me at the entire time. So she goes up,
She
right?
jumps,
So
yeah.
she jumps or something. So she's like above him. So he grows up ahead this way, looking up. So like he wants to make sure that he could look at her at all times, right? So she was like, "You're being a weirdo. What the fuck? What is happening?" And so 4 heads agree. 4 heads like, "Yeah, we're being pervy. Are we being pervy? We're being pervy." But the other head like pisses at Shiva. The other head goes like a snake, like and that Shiva is like cuts off that head, right? So if we tell you that like Brahma, a Hindu god, the creator god, right, was pervy, okay, and Hindus were like, "Oh, you're being disrespectful to our god." Just tell them a reminder that Shiva agrees with us. So there's another god in Hinduism that agrees with us. So they're like, "Oh, you're being like rude to our gods." Well, Shiva cut off his head. Like which one? Like that's which one is worse? We're just like saying, "Hey, you're being pervy." Okay. So anyway, Shiva is in our camp. So if you disagree with us, pick it up with Shiva. Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah, no, because Shiva goes, and the way that the actual scripture is written, it sounds like Shiva like rebukes Brahma, and then but the 5th head speaks ill to Shiva, so he's like, "Oh, frick."
Yeah. No, it actually hisses at him. It doesn't even speak. It's like I think the 5th head was from Slytherin.
I know there are going to be people who are like, "Oh, it's not literal; it's an analogy." Blah blah blah.
Well, that's
this
okay. Well, that's
way
all
Armin
religion.
tells it makes me laugh. Okay, I like this one. So next question is from Gagin American, saying, "Armin, has the truck protests in Ottawa affected you in any way? And also thoughts on the individualistic European and ex-European colonies having anti-mask/vaccine protests versus collectivist Asian democracies like Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan not having these protests. Any opinions on the best way to have an individualistic culture learn about collective responsibility?" I thought this was a very interesting question, but it's insanely complex.
Well, I have all the answers. Don't worry.
Oh boy. Give
First
it to
of all,
us.
no. I live online, so it doesn't affect me at all. But okay, so first of all, let me just tell you, the protesters are pure cringe. Okay, like the mandates were a good idea. Canada did a very good job at vaccinating everybody. And did we overdo the mandates? I hope so. I sure hope so. Okay, like between underdoing them and overdoing them, like when it comes to pandemic, like I hope like we overdo them. I hope every time we face another virus like this that we overdo them instead of underdoing them. Okay, we don't know how goddamn we don't know if this is like just like another disease or the end of civilization as we know it. We can't wait until it comes across and decide like what would be the exact right measure to take, okay, like after the fact. Okay, like is it possible like now we're like the masks were too much, some of the quarantine, some of the closing of the businesses, some of the not traveling was too much. We were right. Were you right? Now we wouldn't know. How could we know if something like this is unleashed on Earth, on the planet? I'm pretty sure that it makes a lot more sense to take it, to be on the safe side, be on the conservative side, and go extra, like we don't want to discover that we should have done more. We want to always discover that it would have made more sense to do less. Okay, because you're never going to get it exactly right. You're never going to be on the spot. Okay, you're never gonna be like, oh my God, we did exactly what we were supposed to do. That's never going to happen. Okay, so when it comes to saving the planet, okay, I don't care that some people are like, oh, I can't go to the restaurant, or oh my God, this mask is so inconvenient. Oh my God, I lost my a source of income. Or yeah, well, as opposed to, like, I don't know, risking the entire goddamn planet. I don't care. Okay, I mean, I care, but like not as much as I care about the other things. Okay, so the protests are pure cringe. Okay, pure cringe. However, what's more cringe is the response by the government. You're shutting down people's bank accounts. Are you serious? Okay, so this goes into the same category of I don't like what the hell you're protesting for. In fact, I think there should have been, like, I think Canadians should be happy with how their government dealt with I think the Canadians should have been grateful upon what happened just recently. Okay, Canada was one of the best performing countries when it comes to vaccine rates and everything. Okay, everything they did, like, they were ahead of everybody else. Okay, so not everybody else, but one of the leading countries. Okay, so they did a very good job in responding to the pandemic. However, as much as I don't like what these protests stands for, and I think, like, it's like the vast majority of these people in these protests are like science denier, conspiracy theory loons, and I don't like these people, and I don't like their ideology, and I don't like what they stand for. I don't like what they think. I don't like their conclusions. However, I do have this habit of defending protests as long as they're not aggressive and as long as they're not, like, harming other people. Okay, so if they're harming other people, if they're causing other people misery, or like causing people's businesses to shut down, and like noise pollutions or stuff like that, I'm in favor of sending in, I don't know, the military or whatever, to just make sure the bridges are open and that people are not being harmed. I'm completely okay with that. But I am definitely against, like, these anti-protest measures that the Canadian government is taking. Like, what the hell? Like, what is it? Like, this is the superiority of United States compared to Canada. You could just you could just close people's bank accounts. You could, like, tell every single financial institutions not to do business with them, not to lend to them, shut down their fundraising. What on earth is happening? Is this, like, are you trying to make the cringiest people on the planet, turning them into heroes? What are you doing?
Oh,
Like, this
straight
is like,
up.
yeah, like, what on earth is happening? Like, I didn't know my government can do stuff like this. Like, what? This is like, I have never been more anti-Trudeau in my entire life, right? Like, I have been defending Trudeau over so many different things. Okay, I thought so many people were being unfair to him on so many different, beyond his just like pro, some anti-free speech, just like words that he used. I was against that. Some making excuses for Islamism, I was against that. But overall, I think his performance was amazing. But now I'm like, what? This is like, by Canadian standards, this is like, by North American standards, this is like the highest level of tyranny I ever seen. Like, you could, like, Trudeau is like, yeah, like, shutting down their accounts, and also telling every single other financial institution that you will pay the price if you do any form of, like, they're not even defining what level of involvement with who's defined as one of the protesters, and what level of financial involvement with them would be considered something that is penalized, that you could penalize them for. And so what do you think businesses are going to do? They're going to be completely conservative. Guys, this is, I don't know, this is like I don't want to act like one of these right-leaning stuff that everything looks like 1984 to them. Like, if they get if they're, seat belts, oh my God, 1984. Oh my God, I have to wear a mask, 1984. Oh my God, I got a speeding ticket, 1984. I don't want to act like one of those guys. But if anything is like, could be like, oh my God, this is 1984. Your bank account being shut down by the government because you're protesting. Are you serious? protesting is like getting the government to like shutting down your bank account and seizing all your assets. This is like anybody that is on the side of enlightenment values and freedom and freedom of assembly and freedom of speech and freedom of holding the government accountable, they should be like, they should be against this. Like, I don't care what side of the protest you are. I'm against these protesters. I'm against everything that these protests represent. And I'm being forced into defending them because you're shutting down their fucking bank accounts. Are you serious? This is like not. Is Canada supposed to be a liberal country where people's right to protest is defended, and people's right, like what, like their right to assembly? Okay, if they're holding bridges and if they're causing problems, send in the military. Don't shut down the entire protest. You have to facilitate areas for them to be able to protest. You could be like stopping them. Like they opened the bridge with military. No need. You don't need to freeze people's bank accounts. Like, what is this? I don't know. What do you think, Susanna?
So I kind of haven't been paying attention to the truckers' protests for the majority of it going on, just because, I have a certain amount of bandwidth that I can devote towards paying attention to the millions of things happening around the world. And, for the majority of it, this didn't pass my threshold, something to pay attention to. I was aware of and I kind of tune in, but not like really tracking the details. But this latest development, invoking emergency powers to completely circumvent due process for any given individual, it's freaking insane. And I completely agree with you. Like, everyone, I mean, okay, so I, browse Twitter and I see a lot of Canadians on Twitter like getting angry at Americans who are getting outraged about this because they're like, this isn't your country, and this is good because our lives are getting affected by this, and they don't have the right to like mess up our economy and all this stuff. Like, I'm not gonna. So the impression I've been getting from Twitter, which is not representative of people at all, is that Canadians themselves are like, yeah, like just do it. Or there's like the very right-wing Canadians, and they seem to be the only ones who are like throwing up their arms about this. But I don't know what the actual mood in the country is, because regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, or I don't know if that's how you talk about it in Parliament. I don't know what you do over there. But like, you should be freaking outraged about this. This is insane. I completely agree with Armin in terms of like this. If you have a value, or you should be defending enlightenment values, and this completely flies in the face of that. And I agree with the fact that the sentiment that this is suddenly giving legitimacy to all these protests. They were calling it the Freedom Convoy. And Armin said, like, it's very cringy to be asking like a public health mandate is like this freedom thing. But now this development really is a freedom issue. It truly is. So now you're just validating and giving them legitimacy and urgency. I hope there has to be legal challenges to this, not let alone like all of a sudden any insurance you have on your own vehicle that you privately own, your private property, any insurance you have on it is now revoked. It's invalid. Like, it's insane.
They shut down their fundraising, and now they're warning. They're warning every other form of fundraising. Like, guys, like, this is beyond. Okay, so people are like, oh, but they're blocking this and blocking that. Well, send in the military, okay? And every time they're causing they're blocking access to like hospitals or clinics. Well, you need to be more like, send in the military and open those routes. Like, oh, they're blocking this bridge and people are like losing. Well, send in the military and open the bridge, okay? You should that's what the government should have the authority to do. That's what the government rules is. The government shouldn't have an authority to decide who's like sending you money and seize your bank account. That should not be a power. Like, this is like really insane level of government influence. Like, guys, I'm not on the side of these protesters, okay? But part of being in favor of liberalism and enlightenment values means respecting the rights of people's protests, even if they're protesting for things that you're against. That's the whole point of being a liberal, okay? It doesn't mean like, oh yeah, I defend freedom of speech and people's rights to assembly and protest only when they agree with me, only when they're on my side, okay? These people are definitely not on my side. I support the protest, okay? I support the vaccines. I support the mandates. I think the mandates should have gone a lot higher and a lot earlier. Okay, a lot of the mandates become a lot less influential because they were added later than they should have been. Okay, apparently. Okay, I don't know, I'm not an expert. Okay, so this is what I've been hearing some experts say. Okay, don't take anything I'm saying when it comes to health related stuff seriously. Okay, but anyways, even though these people and guys, look at the question. Okay, so Gagin Amerithing is saying yeah, so this is the cost of individualism that you have to accept. Okay, when you don't hold people collectively responsible and make them act like a collective, there's going to be a lot of individuals who do not act the way you like. Okay, so people are like, oh my god, yeah, we're promoting individualism and people are not being all responsible and like towards the one direction that they should be moving, right? In times like this, collectivism might seem attractive, okay, but this, don't be fooled, okay, because collectivism, even if like at times like this you were wishing that more people would just accept the narrative and just move in the direction where everything would be productive, that kind of attitude, once it takes hold in a society, it will be misused in the form of making the entire collective move in directions that are very costly to individual liberties. But the collective doesn't care. The collective is just doing what is being told, and the collective is doing what is supposed to be responsible. The collective is just doing its duty to maintain the peace and just being a little good boy, just being submissive and just be like, I've been told what to do. Okay, I'm just gonna do this, and just like I'm just gonna do it because Big Daddy government told me to do it, or Big Daddy like religion or whatever told me to do it, and I'm just gonna accept what I'm told because this is how what being a good boy is like. Okay, so when you and then when you do that, when that kind of ideology is promoted, when collectivism is promoted, then what's going to happen is that's governments, when they have that power over, like whether an ideology or a government has that power over a collective, they will misuse it, right? They will misuse it not in favor of the individual, at the cost to an individual, in favor of themselves, right? So but then when you promote individualism, you're going to see a whole bunch of people acting in a way that you don't like, and you're like, maybe collectivism would be better. Okay, no, okay, this is the price we pay. We let the cringiest people have free speech. We let the most insane people do protests for things that are dangerous. Okay, but we have to deal with it. Okay, when all of us as individuals are moving, what you do is you try to push for education. Yeah, here's a good government role. You just try to equip the individual with better critical thinking skills, with better knowledge. Okay, so don't go for a collective over individual, just strengthen the individual. Okay, because when you have a very aware and educated and critical individual, then even though every individual is moving independently from other, the net benefit of that is going to be better, even though at times you're going to look at certain individuals and you're going to be like, I wish there was a sense of duty involved. I wish we had a collective. I wish people were just more submissive and accepted these rules because it's better for all of us. Yeah, these are the costs we pay. Okay, but it's worth it. It's worth it. We have the stats, we have the data that shows that individualism succeeds, even though at times it backfires, even though at times we have like a whole bunch of cringy people, anti-science people protesting. You defend their rights to protest, even though we don't like what their views is. You stand your ground. You protect the values that have shown historically to make societies better. Individualism, right to protest, freedom of speech, limited government. Okay, a limited government, I don't mean no government. The government has a responsibility to send in the military and make sure free trade is happening. All the roads are open. Access to clinics and hospitals are not none of that is disrupted. People are not suffering for noise pollution and other stuff like that. Send in the military. The government should not have the authority to shut down people's right to protest by freezing their goddamn assets. Are you fucking serious? Is this Canada, or is this the Islamic Republic of Iran? Is this China? What is this? What the fuck is this? This is a liberal country that your assets can be frozen because you're protesting? This is insane. You should be against this.
I completely agree. I think I saw another question sometime today where someone was saying, like, given what's happening in Canada with the reaction to these truckers protests, why are they not taking a hit in their democracy index, you know, along the lines of other countries like India or other countries that do these same kind of things? Well, the short answer to that would be, like, this happened very recently, and those democracy indexes are evaluated, you know, on like an annual basis or even longer. So it's not an immediate, like, this event happened in your country, -5 points. No, this is like an annual review.
Vikram saying, so it's okay to use
Canuck.
So he's saying, so it's okay to use the military, but not okay to block their bank account. Use the military for what? Are you going to use the military to just make sure there's no protest? Then no, you can't use the military for that. Are you going to use the military to make sure that that trade routes are open and access to essential care like hospitals and stuff are not disrupted? Then that's an okay use of a military. Okay, but you can't use neither the military or freezing of people's assets to shut them up. You shouldn't use the military or the bank freezing of assets. The government should have okay, guys, the freezing of people's assets is actually a lot more scarier than sending in the military. Okay, this is like a very silent way of like completely taking people's. At least when you send the goddamn military, you could watch it on TV and be like, okay, what's happening? You're taking people's rights away? If you just like, oh, you're one of the protesters, oh, like just like you lost everything, whoop, just like everything. Like, you know how scary it is? At least I could see a goddamn soldier coming at me, right? Like at least I could walk away when it comes to a soldier. A soldier like comes in and like, hey, move, empty this area. I just like, okay, like I don't want this level of risk. I'm just gonna this is not what I signed up for. I could just walk away, right? But taking someone's assets away, this is, at least there's a cost for the government to be like sending some troops there to just maintain the peace or whatever. Okay. When the government has the authority to just like wipe away everything you own or just make it impossible for you to do trades with other people, that's just like with no cost to the government. You could just you're giving God level power of control to the government, because with like just a signing of a paper, they could silence you. That's a level of authority and a level of control that everybody should be scared of any government having. Because if the government can do that, then they don't even need a military. They could ruin your entire life without even sending any troops. They could the level of you're a complete puppet. You're like nothing. You have chains all over you. If with just a decision, and they could just make your all the tools that you have to maintain your life, to support your children, support your family, to buy food, to be able to live. If any government would like this, they could make that all disappear. Then every time you think you have free speech, you have to understand that you have free speech only because the government finds your speech not costly enough to them. Because at any point of time, they could decide that you're too much of a hassle to them, and they could just like shut you up without even sending the police, without even putting you in jail, just making your entire life just disappear right in front of you. Do you know how scary that is? Do you know how much more scarier that is than a military, like facing a military, when the government could just silently make you submit to them? If anybody is not upset about this, then you are not a liberal. Okay, if anybody is not against this, you're not on the side of Enlightenment values, and you're not a liberal. Okay, I do think like a lot of right-leaning people use this line of like, oh my god, this is tyranny too often. Okay, as soon as the government enforces anything, they'll be like, oh my god, tyranny. Okay, so I would like, throughout this entire pandemic, I was laughing at them. I was like, this is not tyranny. We have a goddamn pandemic. Our seatbelts tyranny right now. Like, you don't have a right to spread disease. I'm sorry, you don't have the right to spread disease. This is not tyranny, okay? So I was in favor of all the government like mandates and everything. I was like, I felt they were not going enough. I was in favor of like forced vaccines, okay? Like, I was in favor of sending in the military and vaccinating everybody. Okay, that's how much I'm in favor of government.
Oh my god!
No, but okay, so because like, hey, you don't have the right to like smoke and like puff it into my fucking face. You don't have you have the right to smoke, but you don't have the right to to spread that to me, okay? So you don't have the same right with goddamn viruses. That's why I was in favor. Like, that's not a right that you can enjoy, okay? So I was like, I'm not one of those people that just shouts out tyranny every time the government does something. But this is now all of a sudden, this is like makes me like now all of a sudden like I'm gonna sound like one of those right-leaning people, cringy right-leaning people, because I'm calling this shit tyrannical. Okay, this is right. This is tyranny. Okay. I mean, not full on tyranny, but whatever.
Oh my god. Yeah. And people in live chat are commenting about like the precedent that it sets. It's very dangerous.
Yes, because from now on, because right now everybody was like, well, this has happened before, and apparently it hasn't. They're lying, right? But now, from now on, if it happens, they could say that. Apparently, this is a line that everybody accepts, because if the government wants to do shit like this, like right now, from now on, if there was a precedent, people keep throwing that around as if like it makes it okay. Well, like we have precedent for this. We have done this before. So from now on, because we have set a precedent, that line of reasoning is going to be a lot more acceptable to people. Well, we have done this before. Jesus Christ, great. Now this is the new normal. God damn it, guys! Make sure that this is like. Please help by making this a little bit less normal, by like screaming about it or something, right? Like be like, holy crap, what the hell? This is Canada, not like China. Please stop. Okay.
You thought you heard honking before? Now you're gonna hear just screaming in the street. Oh, Secular Sakai sent us a manual super chat by donating to our GoFundMe.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Secular Sakai. That's so sweet. If anyone else wants to donate to us, you can donate to our fundraiser that goes towards our legal expenses regarding our precarious situation in India right now. You can find more information about that on the GoFundMe page, or you can donate to our PayPal. Or you can join us on Patreon, where you will become a priority patron if you want your questions answered first, and ensure that your questions are answered, even if you can't attend live during our Q&As. And you also get our sexy blasphemous art, all for as little as $1 a month. So link for all those things in the description. It helps us so much. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without the support of people in our audience. It make a huge difference. So thank you, Secular Sakai.
Note to the Canadian government, this fundraiser that we have, it's under our U.S. entity. Okay, so even though I am against what the Canadian government is doing right now, and
don't freeze our bank accounts.
Don't freeze the fundraiser. Okay, I know as a
you
Canadian,
have no authority here. This is not your jurisdiction.
It was Susanna who opened the fundraiser. I know I'm a Canadian, but Susanna is American, so do not touch our fundraiser. Thank you very much, Canadian government.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. We could talk about this for a long time, because this whole trucker situation is crazy. Yeah, good job like aligning everyone who has a freaking backbone along with these people when they didn't have a stake in it before. Nice.
Guys, just like we defend Muslims when people like are violating their rights, that doesn't mean we agree with Islam, okay? So that means that also with these protesters, even though we disagree with most, like 99% of what these protests are about, we have to defend the right to protest, as long as and people are going to be like, but they're blocking this and causing problem there. Okay, those again, that's the government should come in, send in the military, those specific areas where it's causing other people like a lot of hardship. Those specific things should be solved with the use of a military. Okay, but that should only happen if you could provide, like, if the protest can continue. Like, you should be able, like, these events should not be used as an excuse not to make it impossible for the protest to exist at all. The protest should be able to exist. That's what the military should. The military should do very surgical. It should not come to shut down the protest. It should just be able to come.
They have to provide an alternative that would meet their standards of legality.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to.
And so,
actually, by the way, I don't know if they have to, because this is in America. You guys don't have the First Amendment. Sorry.
By the way, some form of hardship should be accepted because that's the nature of protests. Okay, like every protest will cause some pain. It shouldn't just be pain to the level of like I can't reach the hospital. Okay, it shouldn't be the pain in the form of like okay, everything the entire economy is like shutting down. Okay, like businesses are failing. Like some form of like I mean, if we want to say like no economic hardship, okay, well then we're just saying to no to protest. Like we're saying no to the protest. Like we're saying to protest against apartheid in South Africa. We should be like, oh yeah, that was like economic hardship. So
no BLM.
No BLM, none of this, none of like what protests would not have economic hardship. I think like there's certain level be like, okay, this is too much. People's lives are being destroyed to a level that is like unbelievable. I think that is
there was a lot of that during the BLM protests. How many videos did we see of people literally jumping on top of ambulances and they can't move forward when people trying to be transported? That is unacceptable.
So we are in favor of making a higher level of police presence to stop that, for the protest to continue, but the economic hardship to be reduced. But I'm just saying, even though we're in favor of reducing the economic hardship, you cannot expect no economic hardship. Okay, I mean, part of the power of protest in holding the governments accountable is to be able to inflict on the government some economic cost. Okay, that's how protest works, right? So there needs to be a cost. Again, even though we don't agree with these protests, we can't just be like, oh yeah, we have to like we would be in favor of protests that are fighting for something that we believe in by forcing some cost to the government, economic hardship on everybody. If it was in our favor, we would be like, yeah, this is how protests work. So we would be defending that. So why would we not defend the right to protest in the same way if it's on the other side? I just think like there's a line that you shouldn't be crossing, but I don't know where that line is exactly. But I don't think like we should expect no economic hardship. That's too much.
Hal Jordan is saying, I wish Armin and Susanna were politicians in India. Right now, there's no party I want to support.
Well, just whatever has the highest chance against the BJP. Even if you don't like them, support whatever could remove the BJP.
Please. Christy is laughing at the First Amendment, saying the U.S. has banned more books in the last 5 years than they have in the last few decades. Here's the thing, Christy. At least we have it on the books so that there is a process for legal redress.
Christy, you don't understand the First Amendment. None of those books. Okay, so those book bannings are completely cringe, and I'm against censorship. But none of them were a violation of the First Amendment. So you don't know what you're talking about. The First Amendment is the most valuable thing in that Americans need to be grateful for. This is like the book bannings are completely cringe, and I'm against the book bannings. Okay, but the First Amendment it removes the government's ability to come and tell you what you can say and what you can't say, and it removes their ability to put you in jail. It removes their ability to shut down your protests. So so it removes their ability for you to openly say your opinions. That's a very powerful thing to have. They don't have that in many other countries. They don't have that even in Canada. They don't have that in France. They don't have that in Germany. That's people who think like, oh my God, they banned some books, so the First Amendment is cringe. You have no idea. You have no idea how valuable the First Amendment is. Those are other things. Those are other forms of censorship that other institutions are doing to you that you have to figure out how to solve them differently. Okay, those are a lot weaker. Like when Twitter comes down on you, when Facebook comes down on you, when whoever is in charge of publishing those books bans those books, those are a lot weaker institutions than the United States government that you're in against their censorship. Okay, imagine how big of a problem you would have if an institution as powerful as the United States government was trying to shut down your speech. Okay, those are a lot weaker and pathetic institutions that you have a lot bigger of a chance in tackling. That's not the US government doing that to you. That's other institutions doing that to you. The First Amendment is protecting you from the US government, and you should be grateful for that.
I'm grateful. I think the Bill of Rights is the sexiest thing I've ever seen. Well, you ever seen a document and you're like, oh, girl, like...
Yeah,
that Bill of Rights, man, chef's kiss.
Yeah, exactly. Like Alusa. Yeah,
go
before
ahead.
you highlight, Aluza is saying like these book bans are not instituted by the government. Exactly, book bans tend to happen at a non-governmental level. Okay, so yeah, the First Amendment is protecting you from the government. These other censorship is not happening by by the U.S. government. It's happening by institutions. So the First Amendment is doing its job. It's doing its job, and it's doing its job well. Okay, so Chrissy saying, I understand the amendments, Armin. Geez. Okay, I know you understand. Sorry, Chrissy. I just get very triggered, okay? Because I just want to make sure that people don't just be like, oh my God. Like, it sounds like some people are like, oh my God, banned on Twitter. Oh, free speech there's no free speech in the United States. Okay, so I just have this like gut reaction to that. So don't get up. Yeah, so sorry for going at that. Yeah, anyways,
He's
go on.
using your comment to make a broader point.
Yes, I'm using your comment to make a broader point. Exactly. We
Um,
love you, Christy.
yes, we do love Christy. It's good to see you. We miss you.
Yes,
So next Patreon question is from Music Guy, saying, "What are your thoughts on Valentine's Day slowly trying to become a thing in Iran recently, but the Iranian authorities are trying to ban all things related to Valentine's Day and having police enforce the non-sale of Valentine's Day items at stalls in stores around the cities."
What are you talking to? Am I trying to become something in Iran? It's more of a thing in Iran than it has been in Canada. What are you talking?
Really?
Okay. So what? I don't know what you're saying. Trying to be like it has been a thing for a while in Iran. Look, let me show you some pictures. Trying to be a thing in Iran. This is Valentine's Day in Iran. Okay, so the stores are filled with hearts and teddy bears and roses. Look at this. Look at this Chaduri woman next to all of this Valentine stuff. Look at people shopping for Valentines in Iran. What do you mean trying to? Trying to? They're writing Happy Valentine's in English in Iran. So I mean, the government tries to like tell people to chill a little bit, and this is like un-Islamic and stuff. But do they look like they? Does it look like it's working? I don't. I don't think like it's working. I might look at like they're having a Valentine's Day orgasm. Look at this. This is in
Holy
Iran.
crap. Okay, that is more hardcore than I've seen in any city in the
These are streets. These are people selling stuff in traffic. People walking around. Look at this. Trying to be a thing in Iran. But okay, so this is like seen as okay. So the way Valentine's Day creeps in Iran, like and keeps growing, is that it starts by only upper, like it starts initially by nobody doing it except upper class people who want to be more westernized, right? And then wait, I like this. I wish there was a better picture of this Chaduri woman because it shows the contrast. Because this shows conservatism, and she's like, and the sea of like behind her, there's a sea of Valentine's Day stuff behind her, right? But so it started by like upper class people doing it, and lower class people are like, what is this stuff? Okay, and then eventually lower class people, because they want to be involved with whatever higher class people are doing, upper class are doing, they start picking it up, right? And then what happens is that upper class people are like, oh, now everybody's doing Valentine's Day, so we need to do it extra, okay? Because we're like extra nut, like more have we're like familiar with Western culture and doing Western things because like you guys are just buying roses and stuff. I am buying like a 10-foot teddy that is colored in red or whatever. Okay, like I am. Oh, like I saw an ad for Valentine's Day. People like have they have Valentine's packages in all these stores that are not even related in Valentine's Day related stuff. We have like I know that people are like we have package this, but if you buy package one, like I saw an Iranian ad, like the person like this is the package that we have, but if you buy this, it means that you kind of like your wife or girlfriend, but if you actually love her, this is what you get her. If you really love her, you will buy this one, package number 3, and if you're really devoted to her, this shows that she's the only one. I saw ads like that. I also saw what was this another thing I saw. I wish I had that ad ready. It was so cringe. But yeah, people are outdoing each other. People are, yeah. So there's that. But I don't know. I don't know what measure you're talking about the ban. But I don't think whatever they're trying to do. I haven't seen the ban that you're saying that they're attempting at. But I don't think it's working.
If you're saying they're actually policing sales of Valentine's Day, Okay. This seems like against their own interests, because they're either going to oppose it because it's Western and they don't like it, or they're going to oppose it because they think that maybe this promotes zina and, like, oh, if they only want sex within marriage. Given the fact that they are riding the struggle bus like no other in terms of their plummeting birth rates, I feel like the authorities, it's not in their interests to be going after any reason that promotes people having sex with each other, because they need the babies. They need people to be having babies. So they should be promoting this. But they're so controlling over how it's done. I think it's totally against their own interests.
Look, here's another contrast. There's a Chaduri woman, Yeah. Okay. So no, I don't know if it goes against. I don't think it's about zina. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about Western culture, right? This is more about Americanism rather than not, and they have more of a problem with it because it's Americanism rather than non-Islamic. They think this is a form of soft power, right? This is part of why the United States won against communism, is because people saw Western culture and they were like, yes, please.
That looks more fun.
Yeah, they saw American music, American Hollywood, they saw Valentine's Day, they saw Christmas. They were like, can we have that lifestyle, please? Like, this is what we're having right now is not that fun, right? So they see it as a form of, they see, like, the officials, they see this as a form of, like, the United States has its military and it has Valentine's Day, and has Christmas and it has pop culture, right? So they see that as a form of, cultural warfare. That's what they see it as, and it's working. So
hell yeah.
yeah.
Is there any, like, I don't know, older Persian alternative of a holiday that celebrates love? Because I know that there are lots of Persian holidays. Like, there's that one in the winter that has the watermelons and the seeds. Like, maybe there's
these things.
How do I know these things?
Yeah, but go on.
Because we have an entire branch of our organization that is Persian.
Yeah, but no,
they'd be posting about these things.
I don't think there is anything a day dedicated to love and stuff. That's why Valentine's Day work, right? Yeah. So they have, like, for Mother's Day, they don't do the International Mother's Day. They do, I think, Fatima's birthday. For Father's Day, I think do Ali's birthday. I'm not sure. They don't do International Father's Day. So they have alternatives, right? But Valentine's, so it worked. Like, so for example, in Iran, you don't see people saying Happy Father's Day with the same day that the rest of the world say Happy Father's Day. They have a separate day for that. So the replacement of those have worked. But Valentine's Day, there's no replacement for that, right? Christmas, there's no replacement for that. And Christmas and Valentine's Day have been so commercialized, and so commercialization makes something a lot more fun. So people are like, oh, it's commercialized. Well, the power of capitalism eventually is good at looking what makes people excited, and that's why it grows into something that a lot more people respond to. Like, so this Christmas and Valentine's Day are packages that have been tried and tested, and people could relate to them. So it works. Humans are basically respond to the same thing. So if it works in America, it's going to work in Iran as well. And because it has been mastered in a way that is basically responds to exactly the things that excites people, people are going to see it and they're going to want to be involved in stuff like that, right? It's not people don't want it necessarily just because it's American and it's foreign, but it's also because it has been, Christmas and Valentine's Day have been trial and error has happened in so many years and has been experimented with in the market so much that it has mastered the art of providing celebration and festivity, and in a way that that no other celebrations can. Like any other, by the way, I do think like if other either religious or non-religious rituals were commercialized in such a way, at some point they will get to that level. You know what I mean? Like for example, the Islamic Eid, if for example if Ghazali wasn't a thing and the Enlightenment happened in in the Middle East and North Africa, and instead of like having a Renaissance in Europe, we had a Renaissance happening in the Middle East. I'm pretty sure Christmas would look like a little not as appealing as Iranian or Islamic Eid. Like that, like I think like if Europe stayed backwards the way it was, and the Middle East and North Africa had managed to went through a Renaissance and an age of enlightenment, I bet you Europeans were trying to we're looking at Ramadan and we're trying to look cool by people in Europe were trying to reflect the festivities of the people in the Middle East, because that had went through a commercialization that looks a lot more fun than whatever the Christians have, right? So that would be a thing. Yeah.
Apparently, Gasian American actually found some Zoroastrian holidays related to love, which is interesting.
Wow. Okay.
But I don't blame them for loving Valentine's Day. What's cuter than showing up to your apartment with a giant freaking bear and being like, Azizam, like, look at what I got you.
Wow, I didn't know this about. Okay, this is amazing. Okay, Jesh Namir. Okay. So, but here's the thing, though. I see a lot of people complaining about commercialization of things. I have no issue with commercialization of things. Like, if you want to, if you want people to have access to things, to buy the things that they want with the fruits of their labors, you commercialize it and makes that accessible. Like, what's the problem? Commercialization, like, as opposed to what? Not making it accessible for people to buy things that they want. Like, I don't see what the issue with that is. Okay. Yeah, the world has become a better place through commercialization of things. So there's that.
Okay, so our last patron question is from Oxymoron, who also had a very lengthy comment about the Hindu American Foundation versus Equality Labs, a Dalit-led organization. But like I said, it was quite long, interesting, but too much for us to discuss on the show. And left another question that requires some background, saying probably for the first time, hijab, actually the burqa, is paralleled with the bindi or turban, besides the fact that these don't cover up the face/identity. Instead of the gungat, which was banned across schools, why is the hijab so special? With sustained push by government, most Hindus are out of gungat culture. Don't you think pampering approach towards Muslims causes regress? So for those who don't know, gungat is, I know I'm going to not pronounce it right. A lot of women, when they're wearing their sari, they'll kind of like pull their sash over their face, and it's not wrapped around their face. It's kind of just held over the front, more loose. So
do you want to give the background to what we're referring to here? Because people have no idea.
Yes, I was just going to define what that is first. So that's what that is.
Okay. I think next time we should give the background first and then read the question.
Okay. And so Oxymoron right now is referring to a larger controversy, which is, a big point of conversation in India right now, where there's a big debate between if hijab should be allowed as part of the uniform in government-run schools after some incidents that happened in a specific school with 6 students in Karnataka, and then it's exploded into this huge controversy. This is a tricky question, especially because I'm not familiar with the background behind the Gugati.
So more background, like a lot of people think that we're defending the hijab because we're defending someone's right to wear the hijab. So, and a lot of people, like a lot of Indian news related stuff, are talking about how regressive hijab is and why are we defending that, and they're comparing it to some other things like the bindi or the turban. Bindi, but what is the bindi? It basically is kind of like a. I can find pictures.
So the bindi is the marking in the middle of the forehead.
Oh yeah,
that's usually how it's known.
Yeah.
And then
the bindi and the sari on top of the head. What is that called?
Well, that's just like a sari, but the gugat is more of actual veiling of the face.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Google it.
Okay, so this is the bindi, and then what's the other thing?
Gugati.
Gugati. Oh yeah, and that's a Hindu thing, right? So this is
Yeah, so you still see this mostly in rural India. Or these are mostly wedding photos, which is a bit different because, you know, veiling a bride is just very common across cultures and observed, you know, in wedding situations, regardless of whether they do that in common life. But a lot of women in conservative rural areas will do this, like particularly around men they don't know.
So I don't understand the question. He's saying, why is the hijab so special? Who said like what does it?
Because the standard is that the Hindu equivalent of this, the gugat, isn't allowed. And because the government has pushed the population out of this, most of them don't observe this culture anymore. So they're saying basically, if the government was, you know, somewhat successful pushing the population out of this regressive practice, why the special treatment for this other population? Isn't that regressive?
Just to be clear, if I don't know what other people's stance are, but our stance is that if one of them is allowed, the other one should be allowed. If one of them is not allowed, the other one shouldn't be allowed. Like we think that the turban, the bindi, the hijab, the gugat, if and hijab and the niqab, okay, either if there's a private school that wants to ban one of them, that's not okay. You should ban all of them. Like we would be consistent if like for example, if a school said the bindi is not allowed, but the hijab is allowed, we would come in defense of the Hindus at that point. We're like, why are you why are you specifically targeting Hindus, right? So in the same way, if somebody says the hijab is not allowed, but the other things are the turban is allowed. By the way, as long as the turbans, like I don't think like India is going to move forward with like saying turbans are not allowed in schools, right?
Oh, hell no.
And I think that, okay, that should open the door to everything, okay? That should open the door to everything. As long as turbans are allowed, all of it should be allowed, okay? You're in no position to ban the bindi, whatever this thing is, khugat, and the hijab, or anything else religion, as long as in any government institution or any school that the turban by Sikhs are allowed, then you have no right to say the other ones are not allowed, because you've already allowed one religious form of clothing in schools, right? We're very consistent about this. I don't know why people like saying like, oh, why are you defending the hijab? But what about this? Like, yeah, if the hijab is allowed, these should be allowed as well. Be consistent.
I think it's complicated to talk about, especially with the way we covered it last week, because I was trying to explain as best as I could the previous precedents that have led to the ways that the rulings are coming out nowadays. And the previous precedents are, unfortunately, in my not so educated opinion, because Indian law is freaking confusing, is inconsistent. So I wouldn't be surprised if the final ruling that we come to is inconsistent because of, one, the precedents, and two, the Indian form of secularism, especially with the lack of uniform civil code, allows for very separate and disparate treatment between different groups, which I don't like. So that's part of what makes this very complicated and also harder to understand as an outsider, is all of these different aspects of personal law and how it intersects with secularism and then public institutions like government schools. It's very complicated.
I reject the premise that I don't know who's pampering it. If you have an issue with anybody who's being pampering towards Muslim, by pampering you mean defend their rights, okay? Because
they're talking about the government.
Okay, so I don't know if by what I think the main people who've been being pampered is like that they seem to be having more rights than everybody else is the Sikhs with the turbans when it comes to anything religious related. Okay, so I don't think you're in any position to talk about Muslims being pampered with having privilege, where the Sikhs, you can't even talk about removing the turbans. Okay, that's the group of people you should like. You think like they seem to be having more privileges than anyone else when it comes. I know they've been oppressed and all that. I'm just talking about when it comes to religious clothing. Okay, I'm not talking about anything else. Okay, so there's that. So I don't know what you're talking about. But we have been very consistent. Okay, we are against the hijab. Okay, but we defend people's rights to wear the hijab. If there is any reasons for you're saying, well, this is a place where no religious covering is allowed. Okay, then we better see consistency. And in India, we'll never see that consistency because turbans are never going to be Christians. They're like apparently like untouchable. Like they're allowed to be worn wherever, and then nobody can touch them. And given that they're allowed everywhere, every other religious covering should also be allowed everywhere. Okay, you already opened. Basically, you basically shoot yourself in the foot. You can't have a France model. Because of turbans, okay, you will never be able to have a France model and say like, well, in these places there's no religious symbols at all everywhere because you have made turbans allowable everywhere. So therefore, you have opened the door, and now you have to accept the hijab and everything else. Okay, you have to accept
what
the bindi.
What makes it so complicated is a lot of these rulings, and with the especially
wait. Rudish keeps saying in the live chat, oh, Sikhs are exceptions. I know that's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's what I'm referring to.
That's the whole problem.
Like you're like Sikhs are an exception. Well, they shouldn't be. That's my entire point. I mean, if they are, they shouldn't be an exception. So, what do you think I'm talking about? But yeah, go on.
Well, actually, that brings me to my next point, which is what makes it so complicated with tackling these issues in India is, especially as I learn and come to understand more. Like when I first learned about personal law, I was talking to my friend who's actually like an attorney in India, and I was trying to understand. I was like, why don't you have one law for all? This just seems confusing and it doesn't seem fair. And because you were born into a certain group, suddenly you have different rights available to you. That seems completely wrong. You had no control over what kind of group you were born into, and now suddenly rights, you know, that's, you can't have those. You don't have the same level of legal redress. And then I have come to realize that a lot of the laws and rulings that we have nowadays happened in a very specific context that was trying to address very specific issues, often that issue being communalism and trying to unify India by not having people fight for secession on the basis of certain customs or laws not being observed or not being allowed. So they're like, okay, well, we don't want you to just break away, so we'll just try to integrate an exception for you. But now it leads us to this point in time today where I don't think those same ways are serving the larger national project in the same way that they used to. Like, I feel, again, this is something I'm still, putting a lot of effort into learning more about, but I have the impression that those are outgrown to a certain extent because they do come into constant conflict in instances like this. So it will be very interesting and necessary to see how the fight for the Uniform Civil Code does pan out over, I don't know, the next decade or two.
Okay, by the way, I don't understand why people keep saying this. I see it I saw it multiple times in the live chat. People are like, oh, they're wearing a burqa. It's not a hijab. Hijab and burqa are different. Okay, I don't know how this happened that in the non-Islamic world there's a hijab and there's a burqa. That's not how it works. Hijab covers all of these. Hijab is like umbrella term for any form of covering that is supposed to protect your aura, right? It's supposed to cover, so a burqa is a hijab, okay? So I think people think like hijab is just a rusari, just a head covering, and the other things are not hijab. No, they're all hijab, okay? This is like a non-Islamic categorization of some of it being hijab, and anything that you have that hides you from male gaze would be a hijab, okay? You could a metal armor could also be a hijab, okay? So you're just hiding under the sheet. If a man that is like not one of your siblings or a father or your husband or your son walks in the door and you just take the tablecloth and just cover yourself just because you just walked in the door, that tablecloth at that moment becomes hijab, okay? So I don't know why people keep saying the burqa is not hijab. They're all hijab. Okay, every single one of this is a hijab. It's a covering. Yeah, exactly. Hijaba means cover. Hijaba is cover. Any form of covering would be a hijab. Yeah.
Cool. That question reminds me that I actually
if a strange man walks in, okay, and your wife is right here, and you jump on top of your wife and then shield her from the male gaze, okay, and you're just like, the man is just like, and you're like covering her, and you're just making sure that he doesn't see your wife, okay, and you're just like, you become hijab. At that moment, you are a hijab, okay.
And if your name is Muhammad, then you're a Muhammad hijab.
Yeah.
Bad joke. That actually reminds me. It has come to my attention that we need to issue a small correction on something. When we were talking about the news story of the Indian girls last week, I talked about an incident where they're in the anti-hijab protests that some people climbed a flagpole and took down the Indian tricolor and put up a saffron flag. That was partially incorrect because they didn't take down the tricolor. It was an empty flagpole, and then they put up a saffron flag. So I just wanted to issue that correction because that was reported incorrectly.
Okay. All right.
So, guys, thanks for hanging in there. Now it's time for the live chat questions. If you were like, damn, guys, you couldn't get to my question sooner, that's why you should become a patron and get that priority treatment in our in-depth analysis, okay?
Right.
We do have actually good analysis, and then also we dick around. So become a patron, and you can, get that priority first-class treatment as well for as little as $1 a month. Link in the description below. So let's go into Rudresh's question. Oh, this was the question I was looking for. In terms of Canada and the democracy index, like I said earlier, it's because okay. So you can go to the next Rudresh question, who comes early and he gets it in. So next question is from Rudresh, saying, what percentage of people in a society are likely to be conformists? How do you have a system with more iconoclasts?
Okay, well, we shouldn't be asking percentages because we can't guess these numbers. Like, we need stats and data and stuff like that.
Yeah, we would need to do actual research on this. But
and also depends on what you mean. The
system should have more iconoclasts, because you can't have too many black sheep. You need to have some level of cohesion. But
okay. Who told you
that? You shouldn't harshly punish and abuse and ostracize the iconoclasts. Like, we should, quote unquote, normalize dissent. That's what I'm into. But actually maximizing iconoclasm, I don't think is conducive.
Yes. Okay. So again, it depends on what you mean by conformist and how you define at what point somebody is not because we are all, like, every one of us at some point, like, to some extent, we are conforming to some things and rebelling against other things, right? It's not very neatly defined, right? Like, and not everybody, it's not a binary thing, so some of us are more likely to be black sheep, and some of us are more likely to be followers. But Susanna is like, right, like the percentage, if it's too high towards the black sheep, it could, like, mutate the society into a way. But, like, we have become a civilization because of some form, a certain level of, conform, so this might be, okay, so this might sound like a contradiction, right? We would be like other animals if a large and we wouldn't ever have, like, a civilization if a large percentage of humans were not conforming and just not and were not following without just questioning things, right? So it kind of like work. This is like when it comes to tribes and civilizations and cultures, right? The evolution of memes, right, works very similar to the evolution of when it comes to the biological work, to in genes, in animals and plants and other living things, right? In the sense that you want some level of mutation just so that you could have enough variety to be able to respond to shocks, and to be able to have enough variety to introduce new ideas, just like mutations in nature produce new genes that might be superior. Black sheeps in a society produce new memes that might be superior. So the black sheeps are responsible for providing the fuel for evolution, right, of societies. However, just like in nature, that most mutations are horrible in a society, most black sheeps are also, I don't know, conspiracy theorists, nut jobs that think like aliens are responsible for everything, and there's like, vaccines have microchips in them and shit like that, right? So just because we're
YouTube, that is not our belief. We're talking about the beliefs of other people. God damn.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yes, that we're referring to other people, right? But you need a certain level of rebellion, just to make sure there's experiments with other ideas. But you still, just like in nature, that you don't want too many mutations, because if there was too many mutations, every single animal will just die from cancer or something like that, right? You want most of society to just accept the standards and rules and just accept it and follow, right? Because just because we're the black sheep, like most of us here are black sheep, like we said no to religion, we said no to so many things, and we're the black sheep, and we think we're a good mutation, right? So we're hoping that our mutation will eventually become the norm. And eventually, but that means that eventually the people who are atheists, they're not part of the rebellion. That's just the norm. Like for example, people who are atheists in, I don't know, Scandinavian countries, they're not part of the black sheep. They're just like responding to what the norm is in the society, and most people are like that. So does this contradict my promotion of individualism? Because you're like, oh, Armin, you're saying most people are conforming and most people are not rebelling, and that's a good thing. That's good for society. So why are you against collectivism and pro-individualism? So the difference is, I'm talking about defending individualism when it comes to rights and laws. I'm not talking about changing human nature, okay? One of them is biology. If you think like the laws and rights of individuals should reflect our biology, you're basically appealing to nature, okay? Because if you want to appeal to nature, then we should also defend the strongest and be against the weakest individuals. But in society, we're actually doing the opposite of what nature was trying to achieve. In society, we're actually trying to defend the weakest against the strongest. We're doing the opposite. So appeal to nature doesn't make any sense. In a society, when it comes to rights and freedoms and the ability to speak, we want to treat everybody like an individual. But that doesn't deny that most of us, even with those rights, most of us will just look at it around us and just like try to blend in, try to just be accepted by society. And a lot of us might not take full advantage of those rights. But those rights have to be there. And we should, even though, so these are two different things. One of them is talking about human nature and the fact that we need that nature, or else we wouldn't even have civilization. And the other one is about when it comes to accepting people's rights and freedoms and individual liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of goal. We should let everybody define their goal, define how they're going to become happy, and if they wish to then submit to the will of the crowd and just follow the crowd, that's their choice. But they should do that because it's a choice, not because it has been defined for them by a government or an ideology as a collective for the crowd. If you want to blend in, it's completely your right to blend in, and good for you. Just blend in, okay? But we want to make sure you did that because you wanted to, not because you were coerced into it. So that's individualism. It doesn't go against knowing that most people are just our followers. It's okay. If you want to be a follower, just be a follower.
A very encouraging comment from Christy saying, Susanna, I love that you offer corrections willingly. How beautiful. Hugs, girlfriend. Well, thank you, Christy. That is one thing we try to make cool here on Atheist Republic, talking about black sheep and good mutations. Trying to make admitting when you were incorrect cool.
I'm going to highlight a compliment to myself as well.
Good. As you should. So here is a longer Okay, we'll do a short question because this person has been very insistent about their question, and then we can get into a longer quote unquote call out. So Philip Newark is saying, should street preaching be banned? No.
No.
Well, no. So
No, of course
there
not.
should be some restrictions on it in terms of you can't go
Harassment.
street preaching on someone's private property unless they allow you to. If you are asked to leave and you do not
wouldn't be
leave
street
at a certain
preaching
point
any-
legally, that is harassment.
But that wouldn't be street preaching anymore. That would be house.
So no, I'm thinking of
private
very
property
specific
preaching.
situations that I've encountered in real life where you're preaching on the street downtown, but technically that's some storefront. Part of that storefront is their property.
You're part of it. There's legally you define how far from the store.
Exactly. But besides that, yeah, it's the public square. And I know that it is definitely annoying for people who want to be preached at. But they can also.
How could anybody be in favor of what? I don't understand. How could anybody here be in favor of banning street preaching? Are you? Do you just want to ban everything?
It infringes upon their right to not be bothered by this kind of thing, or maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So Harris Hilton thinks street preaching with loudspeakers should be banned. Yeah, but that would be a general ban against harassment
Megaphones
and loud noise. Yeah, that would be a general ban against.
That's a noise ordinance.
Yeah, that wouldn't be specifically against street preaching. That would be against this is noise pollution. This is you're harassing people. The nature of it being a street preaching would not be the reason why it's being banned. You could be reading poetry with a loudspeaker and it also would be banned. You know what I mean? It would be the loudspeaker part of the thing that would make it ban worthy, not the street preaching part of it, right? So so it wouldn't be a ban on street preaching at all. It would be a ban on loudspeakers. So but how could anybody just be in favor of banning street preaching? Are you do you want the government just to ban everything you don't like? You know what? Actually, I'm not really in favor of the color yellow. I don't like it that much. Okay? Why don't we just ban why don't we just ban that? I'm in favor of banning the color yellow. Okay? I don't want to see it. What are you guys are asking for your governments? You don't like things and you just want it to be banned? And you just you just want okay, what are the chances of the things that are just you're giving the authority for the government to ban, for them all of them to be the things that you don't like? Okay, yeah, you're just let the government ban things and just hope for the best that all that authority is not going to backfire on you, and all of a sudden the things that you like are not going to keep getting banned left and right. Are you guys insane? Oh my god, never.
Yeah, I think so Mir Jalal saying if street preaching is
but
okay.
By the way, I wasn't referring to Harry Sultan, by the way. Wait, so no, I need to clarify this. When I said are you guys insane? I was talking to people who are for banning free speech. But anyways, go on.
Mir Jalal is saying if street preaching is okay, so can catcalling. So I'm actually not familiar off the top of my head about the legality of of catcalling, but my understanding is that it depends on how it goes down, but this is a form of actual harassment. And there are instances where the way someone is street preaching can become harassment and meet that standard, but just evangelicizing in general doesn't meet that standard.
Okay, wait. I don't know if I'm in favor of banning catcalling. How do you define catcalling? A catcalling could be annoying, but it might not reach the level of harassment.
Well,
if somebody tells you, yeah.
I mean, I'm not endorsing. It's banned. There are just legal instances in which verbal harassment does have legal consequences.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, verbal harassment, if it reaches to the level of harassment, then you just we have anti-harassment laws, but not all form of by the way, if I say catcalling shouldn't be banned, that doesn't mean I'm in favor of catcalling, okay? But I don't think you should be able to legally, if somebody whistles at you, you'll say oh my god, you look hot or something, is that catcalling? What's the lowest form of catcalling? Yeah. Okay, you want to ban that? That's okay. That is you might be saying okay, that's cringe. You don't like it, but you can't ban that. What do you want to do? You want to call the police because somebody whistled at you? Like, you could be like, I don't like it. You could be like that. But you can't ban everything you don't like. Jesus Christ! Like, obviously, that should also be allowed. That should be allowed. I'm gonna go on record. I'm saying catcalling, even if it's cringe, it should be allowed. It shouldn't be illegal. Yes.
Well, unless it meets the standard of harassment.
Yeah, of course. So with preaching. Preaching also, if it reaches the level of harassment, it should be banned. But then it's banned not because of it being preaching or catcalling. Then it's being banned because it's harassment. Like, people are like, I don't know. Like, obviously, like, yeah. Like, should parenting be banned? Like, not unless you're hitting your kids. Like, oh, I wasn't talking about hitting my kid. Like, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Like, obviously, if it reaches, like, should Islam, be like, should Islam be banned? I'm like, no, Islam should not be banned. Like, oh, so you're in favor of allowing terrorism, and like, you're like, oh no, I was talking about people just believing in Islam. Obviously, if it reaches that level, that should be banned. Yeah,
yeah.
It's pretty
so
obvious.
People who don't know what
obvious.
Catcalling is, because there are people asking. Like, catcalling is like, for example, most typically happens to women. A woman is walking down the street, and oftentimes it's usually in a group of guys. Like, you walk past a group of guys, they'll start commenting on your body, they'll start asking you for your number, they'll start saying like, oh, I want to fuck you, like, I want blah blah blah, hey girl, can I get at you, blah blah blah. And sometimes they even start following women in this effort.
Okay, that's harassment.
It's definitely harassment.
All right, so here's, like, I'm gonna go. So Harry Sultan saying, "Hey, baby, nice ass." That's harassment. That's okay. I don't think that's the level that should get charged. Okay, I don't think that should be legal. I think that's just cringe. Okay, I think, like, if somebody's following you and you're like, "Hey, leave me alone," and they keep following you, okay, that is like, yeah, call the goddamn cops. That's like harassment. Okay, but I don't think if you're walking in the street and somebody says, "Ooh, nice ass," okay, I think that's cringe. I think, like, that's lame. But I don't think that should be a crime. Does anybody here think that should be a crime? Yeah, it is lame. I agree. Like, that's lame. Like, first of all, like, that should not be illegal. Susanna, do you think that should be illegal for somebody? Like, if you walk past somebody and they say like, "Oof, nice ass," okay, and you don't like it. Let's say I'm not talking about whether, like, somebody says it and you like it. Okay, I'm talking about you say it and it was unwelcome. Okay, you didn't enjoy it. That was like, you were annoyed. Okay, do you think that should be banned? Do you think that should be like? But when you say it's banned, it means that you should be able to make it criminal. It means that you should be able to criminally charge that somebody for somebody saying, "Hey, nice ass." Obviously, that shouldn't get banned. I'm actually very consistent. Like, I don't know if people are trying to figure out like, oh, if you allow this, you're allowing this? Like, no, I'm very consistent. I'm pro free speech.
The answer is no. It gets tricky because different states in the U.S. have different standards for what this is. So in California, it is against the law to engage in lewd or dissolute conduct, including explicit sexual comments or gestures. Violators will be punished with a fine of up to $1,000 and/or 6 months in jail. But this actually meeting those standards is a lot more complicated than just, oh, this guy made a rude gesture at me. My answer changes a lot in terms of if that person had any other reason in their environment to feel unsafe.
Yeah. Okay. So Harris is saying women like it from the guy they like. They hate it from the guy they don't like. I don't think. Okay. So that shouldn't really matter. If something. Okay. So the second part is saying you wouldn't know until you try. What? What are you saying? Yeah, can't be banned. Okay, so I don't know what you're trying. Okay, so guys, if whether you like it or you don't like it, even if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. If it's not harassment, it shouldn't be banned. Okay, it shouldn't get legal stuff. Okay, so but yeah, I agree with the second part of what Harris is saying. Yeah, can't be banned outright. I think repeated unsolicited advances should be banned. Yeah, same thing what I said with preaching. Okay, if somebody says like, "Hey, do you want to hear about Islam, or do you want to hear about Jesus, or do you want to hear about, I don't know, whatever, the flying spaghetti monster?" Okay, and you're like, no, thank you, and you just walk away, that's not harassment. That shouldn't be bad. Okay. And like, hey, Jesus is coming. If you tell like, hey, everybody, Jesus is coming, be warned, and you're not harassing anybody, you're just in your corner and just telling people about Jesus is coming any minute now, right? That should be allowed. But if somebody follows me with either Islam or like, oh, actually, I had somebody follow me. God damn it. There was somebody who wanted sexual attention from me. She followed me for 3 blocks. Okay. And I was
Jesus.
like, this is annoying. I can't imagine how a woman must feel because she's weaker than me. Okay. Obviously. Imagine if she was stronger than me and if this happened many times. Okay. I was annoyed for it happening once. And also, I was annoyed when it happened only once, and it happened at a time. By the way, it's true. She was like not somebody I was attracted to at all. Maybe I wouldn't have been annoyed if she was attractive. Okay, so I am, I have that bias. I don't deny that. But it was extremely annoying, and I was imagining how much more of a annoyance this would be if I knew that in this lonely, like alone in this like street, if this was somebody that could overpower me easily. Okay, because I did not have that fear at all. Okay, so if this was a constant threat every time I was outside, this could be a thing. I was like, I'm so glad I'm not a woman. I'm so glad I'm not a woman. So I could see that the issue there. Okay, so it's like very uncomfortable. But yeah. But I'm consistent. If it's that is harassment. Okay, that if somebody's following you and you clearly have indicated to them that this is not welcome and they continue, that's harassment. That should be illegal. But if somebody just says, hey, nice ass, that is annoying, but that is not harassment and that should not be banned.
Yeah, it's tricky. I was looking into this while you were talking. There isn't any catcalling isn't illegal in the United States. Depending on the law, there might be some like prohibitions against it. But I also learned that France actually moved to like ban and punish street harassment.
Street harassment, that's different from catcalling.
I mean, catcalling is a form of street harassment.
Depends on how far you take it. If you just say nice ass, that shouldn't be banned. That should just be like, you're lame. You're a lame person.
I still think it's harassment, but I don't think there should necessarily be immediate legal rebuke for that. But
okay,
that's
legally defined as harassment. Okay, so when we say harassment, there's a
legal standard for that.
Okay, there's a legal standard and there's the way we talk about things. Okay, when it comes to us talking about what is harassment, anything could be harassment. Okay, you just like somebody coming out and just not saying good morning to me, that could be I could define that as my version of like, that's harassment. You're harassing me by not saying good morning to me. Okay, so the way we use the word harassment, that could be some form of harassment. Okay, so the way we use the word harassment is different from the way that legally is something defined as harassment. Okay, so yes, technically, if you say nice ass to somebody and it's not welcome, you could say that is harassment. But legally, what's defined as harassment, it needs to reach a higher. I think there needs to be a higher standard for what is legally considered harassment. Anyways, it needs to be a very well defined definition for what is harassment. It can't just be like, I feel harassed, so therefore it was harassment. It can't be that. It needs to be very specific.
Yeah. Oh my God. People are saying that I'm just like bitching. I actually have a very high like threshold for just like not caring about harassment, like more than most people in my environment. So, and I don't even necessarily know if that's a good thing.
Wait, who's that you're bitching? The last person that Susanna's actually okay, guys. If you think Susanna is bitching, you guys are like really far gone to the other side. Because Susanna is one of those people who cringes when it comes to like, she's actually a little bit too far right for me. Sometimes I feel like she's like a men's right activist or something. Because sometimes I think like people, she's very anti. I don't know if it's fair to say, but you seem to be very anti some feminist narrative is like that. So it's completely the opposite of what you guys think.
I understand why for some women they experience it like a lot more frequently than I do. So they're like done. Any instance, they're done off top, right?
Right.
Like for me, I just move on. I'm like, okay, whatever. Honestly, I mean, this is a dark secret that like people aren't supposed to say. But oftentimes, like when I get catcalled, I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
Also, guys, Susanna is somebody like, yeah, Music Guy is pointing out that Susanna has been harassed a lot. Susanna has somebody that just came up like so strong against people who like make deep fake porn versions of her, or like, and like attack her in the most
That's
explicit
probably
sexual ways
why
possible.
when I get catcalled, I'm like, oh my God, like you weren't threatening to hurt me.
Yeah, Susanna has gotten more rape threats than, like, I know a lot of women get rape threats, but I think like Susanna has gotten like multiple women's lifetime share of rape threats, and she's like has grown a really thick skin. So I don't know. I don't think like accusing Susanna of bitching and complaining about things is really unfair.
Yeah. Well, Horace is saying, no, you shouldn't have high tolerance for harassment. Fuck them till they're dickheads. Okay, Horace, it's not this simple. Maybe as a guy, you can say that, like, oh, just tell them off. I have to frequently calculate I have to have situational awareness. Know who's around me. I'm going to be like, who can defend me? Who would be willing to jump in and defend me? It's not that simple. So I just roll with it and just like, maybe they say something and it happens to bother me. Oftentimes, it doesn't actually bother me because I don't like to build fragility within myself. I want to be anti-fragile, right? So, and especially if I actually did put work into like my appearance that day, I'm like, yeah, I do look good. That's right. Like, thank you for noticing. But thank you for your sympathy, random guy, about what I go through with the Hinduism. I appreciate it.
Okay, so Charming is saying preaching can be harmful or beneficial. It depends. Again, the government should not get involved every time something is harmful. Okay, there are many things that are harmful, but it's too much for the government to get involved. Okay, cheating on your wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, that's also harmful. Do you want government to mandate that? Do you want the government to make cheating on your wife illegal? Do you want them to get in your business like that? Like, obviously there are many things. Lying, like not being an honest person to your friends and family, that's also harmful. Do you want the government to come monitor how honest you are being to your friends and family? Like, not buying a gift for your daughter on her birthday, that's also very harmful. Do you want the government to mandate that? Do you want the government to have rules for making sure that you have a birthday for your daughter at her birthday? Like, just like be careful not to be like, oh yeah, this should be banned because it's bad. There are so many things that are bad that the government should have no business meddling in. But I wasn't suggesting that you said that. I'm just saying that used it as a way to highlight something. Anyways.
Oh my goodness, we're gonna get in trouble for this one. I don't know. I do get annoyed when people act like just receiving a compliment is this like end of the world situation. Like I have instances where like guy tells me nice ass, I say thanks. I'll let my parents know that their DNA pleases you. Hilarious. Like I've had situations where like leaders of other organizations have like made a pass at me. Like I could turn this into like a big Me Too situation, right? But I don't. I'm just like, okay, thanks. Noted.
Yeah. Anyways, just make sure you communicate with people whether something is welcome. And guys, if you welcome some people liking you, complimenting you, and you don't welcome others just because you find some of them attractive and some of them don't, you're not being a hypocrite. Okay, like okay, this is pure cringe. You're like, oh, somebody says like, oh, I've been saying nice ass, and you don't like it and you think it's harassment. But if somebody who is more handsome told you that you have a nice ass, you would like it. Yeah, but yeah, okay, and what? They're being a hypocrite because they have standards for what they like. Like, yeah, they don't like you telling them, and they might like somebody else telling them. So you should shut up. Like, if they tell you that they don't welcome it from you, you don't have a right to them being happy. That you're like, oh no, you should like me telling you that you have a nice ass because you would like it if I was more handsome and I told you. Like, no, they don't have to. They are allowed to not like it from you and like it from someone else. Like, yeah, different people have preferences. Like, what the fuck do you expect? Like, this is not hypocrisy. This is people having preferences.
Or I was just saying, I say you should make it a Me Too issue. I love Me Too. Just for the record, I don't want to make it seem like the way that I deal with these situations is the way that other women should deal with them. This is just my preference. This is what's right for me. But it's different for other people, and other people react to these things very differently based on other things that they've been through. For me, oftentimes I'm just like actually flattered, and I keep it in my back pocket. So, meanwhile, Gasian American is advocating for the social credit system as a way to combat street harassment. So now let's get to this call out from before the beginning of the stream.
Okay.
So this is mostly directed towards Armin because, well, we'll get into it. Hal Jordan is saying, guys, I'm a bit disappointed with your take on the hijab girl video, not the whole controversy. I feel it was more radical of her to yell, to approach a Hindu mob and yell that aggressively. Just switch her gender and no one would call her brave. Such actions could even start riots. They're just competing in being more radical. What's worse is she is shown as a hero. So for those who are not aware, we are talking about the hijab at school controversy that is currently gripping the Indian nation, but particularly centered in Karnataka. And there was a video of a girl wearing hijab and abaya, like entering an engineering college. And as she was entering it by herself, there's a group of like 30 like Hindu militant young men. Some are students, some are outsiders, it turns out. And as they are there, like yelling and harassing her about the whole hijab situation, she turns around and she yells, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And then she does it again as they like run past and try to get close to her. And she's just like by herself as she walks into school. And so we were talking about the broader ways that this controversy has been heating up in India last week during our news show. You can find that on our channel if you want to see our full coverage of this. And we played this video, and you know, to my surprise, Armin went full fangirl for this girl and her Allahu Akbars. Because you're like, this is the most badass thing I've seen this week. And how she, I think, well, okay, here's what it is. You were talking about how, like, one, just from an outside perspective, how this is objectively giving tons of fuel to Muslims or straight up Islamists and their side of the narrative. And this is the perfect situation, perfect footage that they can use to show, you know, a lioness of Islam and what it means to stand up for Islam. So you were kind of doing a little bit of media analysis, just talking about that aspect of this video. But then you were also just talking about your own personal feelings of her defiance in that moment. And to me, I think that's what you were appreciating, was her own defiance as an individual towards these people who were there to intimidate her. But Hal Jordan is making this point of, would you have felt the same if this was a young man yelling Allahu Akbar? Would you maybe have instead found that not, you know, endearing and defiant, but maybe would have thought it was actually a radical and extremist and not something you would have reported? Armin, answer for yourself.
First of all, the honest answer here is that I really just can't hide the fact that I'm actually a Muslim anymore. Okay. Especially when I say, like, especially when I see a young sister being so proud of her being a Muslim. Like, I know I have this mission of being anti-Hindutva as a fake ex-Muslim, but I'm actually like spreading Islam in a, you know, this is like Hindutva is the we Muslims have always tried to dominate India, okay, and we have always failed. Because the strength of Hinduism, it just has been so, it's just, I don't know what is it about India, it's just so hard to dominate. So we agents here, we try to like go off and like be anti-Hindutva and spread like anti-Hinduism around the world, while pretending like we're not a Muslim, because that's more people will listen to us this way. But I actually have to come out and just say that because like I can't do it anymore because she's such a proud Muslim, and I've been so overwhelmed with your pride, and I just have to come out and just say that I'm so proud of her. Okay, so that's the real answer.
Oh my god!
Wait, like, we're saying I knew it in the live chat. Okay, so the question here: just switch her gender, and no one would call her brave. I mean, yeah. I mean, okay. What's your point? Like, obviously, like when you're a woman in the middle of all these men and you defy them like this, knowing that, I mean, it's a lot more scarier to be defying a whole bunch of men as a woman than a man. Okay, so I don't know what the point you're trying to make here. Like, rightfully so, she seems more brave because she's a woman. Again, I'm not saying women are like superior to men or anything like that. Just because physically you're a lot more vulnerable as a woman, therefore an act of defiance to a mob, to a bunch of men, especially a men who are Hindutva in a country where they have a history of being like, there's a record of Muslims being physically attacked by Hindutva, and you're just deciding to just shout at them and shout out Allah Akbar into the face of them. That seems pretty brave to me. I don't know what you. I mean, honestly, if it was a man, I would still call him brave. Okay, if you're a Muslim man shouting Allah Akbar to a bunch of Hindutva that are shouting Jai Shri Ram, like if you're just one of you, I would like, okay, you're brave. Okay, she just gets extra brave points because she's a woman. Okay, so maybe less people will call him that man brave, but I would still call him brave, but not to this extent. This is pretty insane. I thought that I don't, guys. Even if you are not in her on her side, or even if you're Hindutva, that was brave. Okay, and I don't know why this is even a controversial. I mean, Daesh is brave. Al Qaeda is also brave. Like, that's not even the compliment.
I was not expecting what.
No, like you don't. Okay, so the bravery is not even a question. Like, I don't. You might even say like, okay, it was brave, but you might even be like, that's not even a compliment. Like, so I mean, she is brave. That's pretty intense. Okay, so yeah, there's that. Okay, that must have been very scary. Okay, also, we defend her. What was the issue with us defending her? We're defending her rights. We're not like endorsing Islam or endorsing hijab. Hijab is cringe. We were very clear about that. What was the disappointment? Yeah, what's worse?
No, it was specifically about you praising her and how, it's a sign of radicalism, basically.
Guys, we have gotten strikes on this channel for defending the human rights of former ISIS members, right? For their right to due process, the right to, the right to their citizenship. What makes, if we defend the worst of people, what makes you think we were not going to defend her? She's like way better than them, right? Like I'm saying, it doesn't. It's not always a compliment. You could be too brave.
It's true. There's famous quotes about how bravery is just a stupidity by another name.
I mean, it depends.
There's tons of quotes along that line.
I mean, this goes back all the way to Socrates, where he said like there's the golden mean. Like, you could be too brave, you could be too much of a coward, or you could be too brave. Okay, there's a golden mean area. So necessarily, like, okay, but I'm not using this as a way to judge whether or not I admire what she did. Okay, because she was defiant. I like defiance. Okay, I think her hijab is cringe. I think her Islam is cringe, but she's standing up for what she thinks is her right, and she's not giving in. I think that's admirable. I think you should be able to admire that as a trait in somebody. I don't see what the problem is, right? I can respect the defiance of rebels, even if they're standing up for things that, even if I have disagreements with them, okay? Especially if it's their rights. Like, she's not even standing for something I disagree with right now. I am against hijab. I am against modesty culture, but I am in favor of consistency. I am in favor of, not giving people privileges, right, in a society. There's no way somebody with a turban would be blocked from school because of their turban, right? Why could somebody walk into the school with a turban and she can't walk in the school with their hijab? This is not, this is privilege. This is not secularism. This is inconsistency. So she's standing up for something I agree with. She's standing up for secularism. She might be a hijabi. She's standing up for secularism because it's inconsistent for some people to have privileges and others don't, or not. Yeah, look, this woman is actually a symbol of secularism right now. Look at this. Oh my God, why do you have a
Yes! Oh my God, look at this baby that just got a haircut. Everyone stop the show. This is what we're doing right now.
I did not put this dress on her, okay?
Oh my God, I didn't even notice.
She has a dress. Should we put a hijab on her? Say hi. Hi.
Oh my God, look at that little baby girl. Oh my God.
Yeah, anyways, this is a symbol of secularism. It might not, this is progressive. Yeah, this is a symbol of secularism, okay? It might come in a package that doesn't look secular at all, okay? But this is being consistent with your rights and laws and supporting people's rights. This is secularism, okay? So this is this image that you're looking at as even though it's hijabi, it's the new symbol of secularism.
Rajesh is saying this girl is horrible, but it's the guys in saffron that made her look based.
I don't, even if she's horrible, the fact this act of defiance, I support that. This act of defiance, I'm supporting it. Harris is saying, no, in that school, apparently all religious symbols are banned. Even a turban. Like, seriously, there's schools in India that you can't walk in with a turban. Like, would they ban would any school in India dare tell somebody that you can't walk in with a turban on? That would be controversial. That would raise hell. Try it. Somebody try going to a school with a turban and see if they will stop them. So, also, was this Susanna, remind me, was this a private school or a public school?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that it was an engineering college within the state.
Yeah, see, the Rajesh is confirming, and hardly any school can ban turban. There you go, Harris. With the exception for turban, if there is an exception for one of them, if there is an exception for anything, any religious symbol, then all of them. It's all or none. It's all or none. It's all or none, or it's not secular. Either go France and ban it all, or if you're allowing one, then you can't have religious privilege. If you're allowing one, you have to allow all of them. Go all in or all out. You don't play, don't have one foot in, 1 foot out. It's not secularism when you have privileges.
What time is it? Oh my God, we've been going for a long time.
Yeah. Interesting.
Indian secularism in textbooks always use Sikh as an example. An example of what?
As an example of not being secular, about not being Indian secularism. Like, why, guys, we're just pretending to be secular. Here's an exhibit A of why we're not secular.
Yeah. But this is another example of India trying to address a specific issue that happened at the time and trying to prevent a specific communal problem. And then over time, it causes precedents and standards that are inconsistent, and other communities start rightfully getting upset over it because you're like, this is inconsistent. We're not being afforded equality under the law.
What is this? Somebody is saying turban is not a symbol of Sikhism. Oh my God! I got them saying it's part of their. Oh, are you serious? Okay, if you want to go that route, I'm just gonna go the route of hijab not being a symbol of Islam. I'm gonna say like, oh look, Christian women cover their hair. Oh, look at this, the Russians covered their hair before Islam. If you want to go that route, I could go that route with you as well and say hijab is not a symbol of Islam. Yeah.
My word.
All right. Wait, so didn't we cover everything Hal said? I think we covered it all.
Yeah, he was also talking about how, like, she actually approached them because she rode up on a scooter. Like, she was just going to go park her scooter and then walk forward. What are you talking about? She was just going to park her scooter. Granted, I didn't surveil the entire parking lot to see if there was a space available a little bit farther away from the mob, but, so excuse me, but she was just going to go park her scooter.
Why are so many people butthurt over the fact? Like, I think like it shows how it's obvious that Hindutva are on the wrong side on this. Like, this made this like, and I think people can't separate this in their mind, right? They can't, like, when we defended the former ISIS woman for, just like when it comes to defending her
revoking of her
rights, when it comes to due
citizenship.
process, people thought, yeah, people think we're defending her as a person. Okay, when we're defending the truckers' right to protest and not having their their assets frozen, or their assets actually are freezing as well in the Canadian border right now. Not having their assets frozen.
Protect your
People
ass
think
and your
people
assets.
think like, yeah. People think we're defending what the Canadian truckers represent. We don't. We're very much completely anti what they are protesting for, but we're defending their rights. And also now with her, right? When we're defending her rights and her act of protest and defending her rights, we're defending her rights to protest. We're defending her act of defiance. We celebrate acts of defiance, especially when they're not hurting anybody, right? When they're not hurting you, this is not hurting anybody. You're shouting Allah Akbar, okay? So we defend your act of defiance, even though we don't defend many of the things that you represent. We don't defend what your Allah Akbar is, saying. We don't defend your hijab. We don't defend your Islam. We think all of that is cringe. But we are rebels here, and we will defend other rebels, even if they're rebelling for something that we don't agree with, as long as they're not hurting anybody. Okay, we think the world would be a better place if people could come out and, if we encourage more people to protest, if we encourage more people to demand their rights, if we demand more people to say, fight authority and demand their rights to be given to them, because rights are something that you fight for. Rights are not something that are handed to you by God or nature, or it's not a gift from the government. Okay, it has to be. And the way you fight for rights is that you make sure that everybody's acts of defiance is heard. Okay, you don't just choose and pick what acts of defiance are allowable and what acts of defiance are okay for people to voice them. Okay, you have a blanket allowance for everybody being able to be defiant, even the people who you do completely disagree with, as long as again
it's
you're not
violent, of course, and not
as long as it's not violent, and
stuff.
as long as it doesn't infringe upon your rights.
Yeah, or violate other laws, that kind of thing. Oh my goodness, Horace is going off on the truckers in the live chat. Okay, Horace, regardless of your issues with their tactics or their message, I hope you can agree that freezing their assets, invoking emergency laws to circumvent due process and freeze their assets is unacceptable.
We already covered.
But we can't get into that again.
Yeah, Harris, just go watch what you said.
But I'm hoping Harris is on board with that at least.
Yeah, we're in favor of sending the military to open trade routes and to open open the access to essential care. We are in favor of that, but we're not okay at all with the government being able to freeze anyone's assets or access to finances as well. Okay, Harris is like, we don't open this gate. Like, let's not open it. We already went for an hour at the beginning of the show talking about this. Just go watch that, and we could debate that at another time, because we're not going to do that right now. Oh my god! This is how
freeze their asses.
They're causing anarchy. Okay, guys, if you support protests until the point where it gets too chaotic for you, or at the point where they stand for something you don't agree with, then you don't support protest. Okay, then you're not in the then you're not in favor of freedom of assembly, and you're not in favor of people having the ability to hold their governments accountable. Okay, again, there are certain red lines that people shouldn't get across, but giving the government the authority to just come and shut down people's bank accounts and telling all other financial institutions not to deal with them, that's the level of authority that no government should ever have anywhere. Anyways, we should move on.
If they stick out in the cold long enough, they will freeze their ass.
Yes.
So, guys,
they're Canadian. They are used to it.
We are gonna have to end the stream here because I have a. Oh my goodness! Oh, look at her. She must be so soft because she just got the haircut.
Okay. Yes.
I always loved when my dog got a haircut. He felt like a plushie. Oh my God, look at that happy little baby.
She keeps coming back to me because she knows I give her so much love.
Yeah.
She's addicted to me petting her.
Look at daddy. Oh my God. Anyways, as I was saying, we need to cut the stream right now because I have a lot of work to do because in 2 days I'm giving a speech. I will be speaking at the Humanist Society of Santa Barbara. I'm going to be talking about the importance of building international atheist community, why this is something we should focus on. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about my background. So tune in for some never before seen baby photos. And a little bit about Atheist Republic and how we do these things, how we fight for these things. So I just put a link for the registration in the live chat. So make sure to sign up. It's free. It's virtual, happening in 2 days. And there is a limited number of virtual seats. So make sure to sign up sooner rather than later. Just sign up now. Oh, thank you for all the people saying that they signed up. That's awesome. And I'm excited to see everyone. I think it'll be fun. And finally, because this is happening on Saturday, that's usually when we do the news. This is a friendly reminder to everyone that we are doing the news 1 day later than normal. So normally it happens on Saturday. We're doing it on Sunday this week. So it's not canceled. You'll just see us 1 day later. And I'll put a reminder about that in the community tab when the time comes.
Guys, it's an online event, so everybody can attend, and it's free. And you get to hang out with us. So we want to make sure that a lot of the people who are coming are from Atheist Republic community, so we get to like just chill and hang and have fun while Susanna is giving us her lecture, her talk. So it's gonna be fun. So just make sure, link in the description. Make sure you go before other people do, right? So last time we did events like this, the live chat was a lot of fun when people showed up. So so I'll be there. I'll be in the live chat so we could talk.
Yay! And Christy is reminding everyone to please hit the like button. If you stayed this long and you didn't like, do it. You clearly did like. And also subscribe. If you hang out this long with us, just subscribe. And if we didn't answer your questions this week in the live chat, subscribe so you can tune and hit the bell notification so you know when to tune in next week, and we can spend more time next week answering your questions because hopefully I will be less overwhelmed. So that note, I will see you guys in 2 days for this speech, and then on Sunday for the news.
Yes. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.